Chapter 430. Crack. Fang Yuan crushed the gut stone with one hand. Immediately, a lump of mud flowed out and stained his hand. Fang Yuan's gaze was extremely solemn as he casually picked up a pebble from the mountain and held it tightly in his hand. The yellow mud on his hand melted the pebble at a slow speed, turning the sturdy rock into even more mud. After a while, Fang Yuan could clearly feel the pebble in his hand shrinking. About 15 minutes later, the pebble completely turned into mud and disappeared. The yellow mud flowed through the gaps between Fang Yuan's fingers and onto Dang Hun Mountain, causing continuous damage to Dang Hun Mountain. Fang Yuan was silent for a while before slowly asking, "How serious is the situation?" Little Hu Immortal wiped her tears and replied while sobbing, "Right now, most of Dang Hun Mountain has already been corroded by the yellow mud. 6 out of 10 gut stones below the mountain waist are yellow mud. Master, what do we do? Dang Hun Mountain is going to die." Sob, sob, sob. "It's all my fault, I did not detect it in advance." Fang Yuan patted Little Hu Immortal's head and consoled, "This is not your fault, no need to blame yourself. The culprit is that swamp crab. It is truly a desolate beast, truly an earthly calamity." Land spirits had different abilities, they were all related to the Gu Immortal and the Blessed Land. He sighed and continued, "I was feeling lucky that the desolate beast did not have an immortal Gu. It turns out that this swamp crab had already used an expendable immortal Gu. The immortal Gu's power is hidden in the mud. Flesh and blood are fine, but the mountain rocks will suffer and will gradually be assimilated into mud. In the earthly calamity earlier, the swamp crab spat out large amounts of mud, from which a crab army emerged. Fang Yuan killed a vast number of crabs, but in fact, his true trump card was this yellow mud. Fang Yuan guessed that this should be the effect of the rank 6 Gruel Mud Gu. Gruel Mud Gu was a naturally formed Gu. There were many rank 1 and 2, while rank 3 and 4 were also common. They were often used by Gu masters to construct cities. Rank 5 Gu masters were rare, and when many rank 5 Gu masters did not have a powerful rank 5 Gu, they would often choose the Gruel Mud Gu and use it temporarily. At rank 6, there was only one in the entire world. Moreover, Gruel Mud Immortal Gu could only be used once. The Gruel Mud Gu could only be used on soil, so the swamp that swamp crabs lived in must have been affected by the immortal Gu. The swamp crab spat out mud from the swamp every day, thus it brought the power of the Gruel Mud Gu to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. After the mud crab died, although the battlefield had been cleaned, a large amount of yellow mud had seeped into the mountains and the earth. The immortal Gu Gruel Mud's power was so concealed, the yellow mud naturally did not have the slightest aura of the immortal Gu. If Fang Yuan had not arranged for the rock men to enter the mountain to knock on the rocks, they might not have found any clues. However, even if he discovered the truth in advance, when the earthly calamity arrived, he would not be able to escape. He did not have the ability to stop it. Fang Yuan's face darkened. Dang Hun Mountain was being corroded by the power of the immortal Gu, gradually turning into yellow mud. This was a grievous news. In the entire Hu Immortal Blessed Land, the most valuable thing was this mountain. He planned to use this mountain to nurture rock men and sell them. From now on, he would strengthen his soul. He still had to rely on this mountain, he could not sit back and watch the situation worsen. Immediately, Fang Yuan ordered Little Hu Immortal, "Try to get rid of the yellow mud. This way, the danger would be greatly alleviated." But Dang Hun Mountain's interior was also being corroded. This method could not cure the root of the problem. In his previous life, Fang Yuan roamed the 5 regions for 500 years before finally choosing to settle in Central Continent and become a Gu Immortal. He had a good understanding of Western Desert's situation. Compared to Western Desert, Northern Plains is a huge grassland. The large tribes graze, migrate, fight, and reproduce on the grassland. Their mobility is very high. Some small and medium-sized tribes have even more chaotic management. I can take advantage of this situation. Western Desert was different from Northern Plains. In Western Desert, humans relied on oases to live, many of them gathered together all year round. As long as the oases were not lost, no one would be so bored as to travel long distances in the vast desert where danger lurked everywhere, to search for another oasis. But in northern plains, tribes had to migrate from time to time in search of fertile and fresh grassland. The climate there was constantly changing. From time to time, there would be strong weather changes that could destroy their homes overnight, forcing the tribes to migrate again. This way, tribes would move all over the place. Conflicts were unavoidable. Thus, Northern Plains had the most Gu masters, and was also the most proficient in fighting among the 5 regions. If Fang Yuan chose Western Desert and kidnapped hostages to threaten Gu immortals, it would definitely cause a huge and lasting commotion in the peaceful Western Desert. But if he chose Northern Plains, even if he killed the rank 5 Gu master Tai by Yunsheng, the commotion would only last for a while. After a few months, people would forget about him. After careful consideration, Fang Yuan felt that the chaotic Northern Plains was more suitable for him to act in. Western Desert's Sun Chui was already a Gu immortal, while Northern Plains Tai by Yunsheng was only rank 5 peak stage. After deciding on a direction, Fang Yuan racked his brains, searching for all kinds of useful information from his memories to weave his plan for Northern Plains. Plans could not keep up with changes. Since rebirth, his plans had been constantly changing. The first time on Qing Mao Mountain was when he obtained a great aptitude. It was a huge breakthrough and thus changed. The second time on San Cha Mountain was when Fang Yuan soared to the sky in one step. His original plan became even more unrecognizable. Although there were still benefits in the Battle of Tian Mountain, Fang Yuan could no longer stay in southern border. As for Central Continent, it was even more impossible. He was immortal, famous in the righteous path's 10 great sects. He was targeted by the entire Crane Gate and many demonic path Gu immortals on Tian Ti Mountain. As long as he did not become a Gu immortal, he would have to hide in the blessed land, unable to come out. He had originally planned to live well in Hu immortal blessed land. There were sufficient resources in the blessed land. Fang Yuan wanted to imitate Feng Jioge and cultivate hard to reach Gu immortal realm as soon as possible, and get rid of Spring-Autumn Cicada, his biggest internal threat. Fang Yuan was a risk-taker. He liked to use small means to win big, and often struggled on the line between life and death, but this did not mean he rejected a peaceful and stable life. If he did not use a safe and stable cultivation method, instead he liked to jump around and cause trouble everywhere, taking risks and trying things recklessly. That was a problem for his brain. Loneliness, solitude, boredom, these had never been an obstacle to Fang Yuan's cultivation. If his temperament was so shallow that he could not endure these, how could he successfully walk down this path? However, the world changed, things did not go according to one's wishes. That was the nature of life. Fang Yuan wanted to cultivate hard, and the blessed land's development was fast and good. Crane Gate might be an external threat, but Fang Yuan held the initiative. The other party might be powerful, but they could not control him for a period of time. His future prospects could be said to be good. Everything was going smoothly, and everything was changing for the better. But right at this time, Dang Hun Mountain had a problem. To Hu immortal blessed land, Dang Hun Mountain's importance was self-evident. Once this mountain had a problem, Fang Yuan's business plans collapsed, and his cultivation plans also went up in smoke. Because of this, Fang Yuan had no choice but to change his plans again. He left the blessed land and went on an expedition to Northern Plains. Fortunately, I planned ahead and made some preparations, otherwise I would be in a passive position now. In the next few months, Fang Yuan put all his energy into Gu refinement. He used rank 4 Golden Cup Silver Light Cup Gu, combined with rank 4 Side Push and Side Guide Gu, and rank 4 Shift Form Gu, to refine rank 5 Moving Cup Gu. He then refined Dusty Gu, Bright Pearl Gu, Dark Cast Gu, and Earth Treasury Flower King Gu. Land Spirit, when I am not around, follow my arrangements. Before leaving, Fang Yuan instructed. Little Hu Immortal's eyes were red. She was reluctant to part. Master, I will wait for you here, you must return quickly. Saying so, She activated her green grape immortal essence and poured it into fixed immortal travel goo. Chapter 431. Howl. In the dark grassland, the poison-beard wolf king raised its neck and let out a long howl. The ears of the hundreds of poison-beard wolves around it twitched, and their bodies shot out like arrows. The wolf group split into two groups. They were organized like an army. The young girl Guyao ran with all her might. But her horse had died long ago. Her little red leather boots stepped on the muddy swamp, already as heavy as lead. The stampeding poison-beard wolves successfully surrounded her, and then quickly closed in. But they were wary of the girl's powerful goo worms. They only circled around her and did not dare to attack. Suddenly, one of the poison-beard wolves became impatient and charged out. It moved quickly, its body turned into a black shadow as it pounced towards Guyao. Guyao shouted and activated her goo worm, pointing with her finger, and a light blue water arrow flew out. The water arrow shot out in a spiral and accurately pierced the poison-beard wolf's head. This bold poison-beard wolf died on the spot. Its corpse fell on the rotten grassland and rolled for a while before stopping. Blood flowed out from the wound and dyed the surrounding grassland red. The restless wolves paused for a moment, but soon the smell of blood in the air stirred up the savagery and cruelty in their bones. At once, hundreds of poison-beard wolves howled. Guyao's beautiful face was filled with despair and regret. He really shouldn't have come to this poison grassland alone to search for some snow willow. Right now, she was in a desperate situation and was about to be torn to pieces by the wolf group. She swallowed it. "Father, I am sorry, I cannot be filial to you anymore. I know. You arranged a marriage for me, it is for my own good. But I really do not want to get married. Ancestor in longevity heaven, if you can hear my prayers, please send a brave warrior to save me." That attack earlier had already used up the last trace of white-silver primeval essence in Guyao's aperture. All Guyao could do was to pray. The wolf group finally lost their patience. The wolf king howled and all the poison-beard wolves charged towards the girl in the center with terrifying momentum. "I am going to die." Guyao's face was pale. She was at a loss as she looked at the wolf group's advance. At this moment, an intense green light suddenly flashed. When the light shone on the poison-beard wolves, they all closed their eyes. It let out a howling sound. A charging pack of wolves. They collided with each other. One fell down, implicating the other. Their momentum instantly collapsed, and the scene became chaotic. "What's going on?" Guyao was shocked. Ignoring her tears, she tried her best to look. The figure of a young man appeared in the green light. After the green light dissipated, a naked man appeared in front of Guyao. "One. Alone?" Guyao's eyes widened, and her mouth formed an O shape. She thought incredulously, could it be that my ancestors in the longevity heaven heard my prayers and sent reinforcements? But why was this reinforcement not wearing any clothes? Guyao suddenly had a big question in her heart. "We've reached the northern plains." Barefooted on the grass, Fang Yuan quickly looked around. Why are there people, and wolves?" Fang Yuan narrowed his eyes. He did not expect to encounter an accident the moment he stepped into the northern plains. He had to keep his trip to the northern plains a secret, but he was exposed the moment he arrived. The wolf king roared, it suddenly jumped and opened its mouth, its sharp teeth biting towards Fang Yuan's neck. A mere 100-beast king." Fang Yuan's eyes shone with a sharp light. He pushed out a golden dragon. Rank 4 golden dragon goo. Roar. The 4-clawed golden dragon roared. It bared its fangs and claws as it flew out, crashing into the poison-beard wolf king. This 100-beast king's bones were instantly shattered. It was sent flying like a broken sack. After it landed on the ground, it howled and struggled, but it could not get up. Fang Yuan frowned slightly. He sent out another golden dragon. Only then did the poison-beard wolf king die. Once the wolf king died, the wolf group collapsed, in a few breaths of time, they escaped 100 li away. Only the Wolf King's corpse was left, and the young girl Guyao looked at Fang Yuan blankly. Fang Yuan turned his deep and serene gaze towards this young girl. The young girl was wearing a leather robe unique to the northern plains. The long-sleeved robe was blue and white, the edges were embroidered with gold, it looked pure and noble. She had a purple gold belt around her waist, her thick black hair was adorned with many fine and beautiful hair accessories. His feet were clad in scarlet leather boots. Her skin was slightly dark, with a hint of red, it was the unique skin color of northern plains. Her figure was slim and fit, like a cute deer. Guyao was forced to take a step back by Fang Yuan's gaze. She asked curiously, "Who are you? Are you the hero who came down from the longevity heaven to save me?" Before Fang Yuan could reply, she continued, "I am a member of Gu tribe, my name is Guyao, my father is the tribe leader of Gu tribe. Young warrior, you saved my life, you will receive the warmest welcome from Gu tribe." "Oh, I have not asked for your name." Fang Yuan laughed, "Beautiful grassland girl, you can call me Chang Shan-yin. The longevity heaven is where giant sun immortal lives, how could I come from there? I am only an ordinary Gu master." Saying so, he took out a wine cup from his aperture. The top half of the cup was gold, while the bottom half was silver. It was rank 5, used for storage, it was the moving perspective cup Gu that Fang Yuan refined in the Blessed Land. Immediately, Fang Yuan poured his primeval essence into it, and took out a set of clothes. This was a black tight-fitting battle attire. After Fang Yuan wore it, he gave off a heroic and steady aura. During the whole process, Guyao stared at him without blinking, her heart was pounding, and her face was flushed red. The young girls of the grassland were so passionate. Fang Yuan wore his clothes, and walked towards the poison-beard wolf king's corpse. Poison-beard wolves were a common type of wolf in northern plains. But different from other wolves, it did not have a single hair on its body was black, and its skin looked like it was coated with a layer of enamel. It did not have ears, and had 2 5-inch long feelers. When it ran, the feelers would hang at its sides. When it fought, the feelers would stand up high. Fang Yuan searched for a while, but did not find anything. This poison-beard wolf was a 100-beast king, and had a rank 2 Gu worm in its body. This wolf had 2 rank 2 Gu on it, acid water Gu and poison needle Gu. Acid water Gu could make it spit out green acid, corroding flesh and even iron and stone. Poison needle Gu could shoot out poison needles to attack the enemy. Unfortunately, Fang Yuan only obtained the fragments of these 2 Gu worms. The Wolf King did not have a defensive Gu, no wonder it was easily killed by Fang Yuan. Normal beast kings could have a beast enslavement Gu. For example, the dog enslavement Gu on the Dog King. The Wolf King had a wolf enslavement Gu. Even if it was a rank 2 wolf enslavement Gu, Fang Yuan needed it. Just as Fang Yuan was searching the wolf corpse, Guyao walked over. "Chang Shan-yin, your name sounds familiar. Are you a member of the Chang clan? But looking at your clothes, you seem to be an outsider, right? Are you from Eastern Sea? Central Continent? Or Western Desert?" Fang Yuan stood up. "I am from Northern Plains." The young girl grinned, revealing her pearly white teeth. "You liar. How can we have such an accent in Northern Plains? Warrior Chang Shan-yin, don't worry. You've saved my life, so you're the benefactor of our Gu tribe. Our Gu tribe will not reject you. Be it Central Continent, Southern Border or Northern Plains, as long as one was an outsider, they would be ostracized." Not waiting for Fang Yuan to reply, the lively young girl pointed at the fixed immortal travel Gu on Fang Yuan's shoulder, asking, "Warrior Chang Shan-yin, the Gu on your shoulder is really beautiful. What Gu is this? Is this the Gu that brought you here?" Fang Yuan's gaze concentrated, carefully observing the young girl's expression. He found that she did not seem to be faking it, and was truly ignorant, not recognizing this fixed immortal travel Gu. Only then did he relax. Killing intent surged in his heart. but on the surface, he showed a sincere and kind smile. Beautiful girl, are you Tian Ke? Why are you always chirping? He, alright, I have to go now. See you again. Fang Yuan raised his head, using the stars in the sky to determine his direction. Next, he walked past Guyao, towards the depths of poison grassland. The young girl quickly chased, I am not Tian Quebec. Who asked you to be so mysterious, suddenly appearing again? Hey, don't go that way. That direction is the only way to get out of poison grassland. I am going in. Fang Yuan said without turning his head. Why do you want to go in? The deeper you go into poison grassland, the more dangerous it is. Although you are rank 3 peak stage, a strong man's fists cannot hold off a pack of wolves. Guyao jogged over to Fang Yuan, persuading him. The 5 regions of the Gu Master world were independent. When Gu Masters crossed regions, their battle strength would be suppressed by a rank. Fang Yuan was a southern border Gu Master, but when he went to northern plains, he would be suppressed in a different place. Although he still had rank 4 peak stage true gold primeval essence in his aperture, its effect was only equivalent to rank 3 peak stage snow silver primeval essence. Thus, Guyao could sense that his aura was rank 3 peak stage. And the rank 4 golden dragon Gu from southern border only had the power of a rank 3 Gu. If it was in southern border, golden dragon Gu would definitely be able to kill the poison beard wolf king with one strike. But in northern plains, Fang Yuan had to use it twice to kill the poison beard wolf king, and even leave the wolf king's corpse intact. Fang Yuan slowed his steps, looking at Guyao with a solemn expression and firm gaze. I have my reasons for going to poison grassland. Guyao was stunned by his bearing, and only reacted after Fang Yuan took a few more steps. The young girl quickly chased, Warrior Chang Shan-yin, let me go with you, we can take care of each other. She took the bait. Fang Yuan's lips curled up. His current battle strength was only equivalent to rank 3 peak stage, it was not enough to enter the depths of poison grassland. Thus, he urgently needed northern plains Gu worms to arm himself. But even if he killed Guyao, he might not be able to get all her Gu worms. Thus, Fang Yuan used a small scheme, loosening the reins only to grasp them better, and easily lured Guyao to his side. Chapter 432. Even though this was Fang Yuan's intention, and Guyao also volunteered to join, Fang Yuan still said to her, take care of me? What do I need you to take care of me for? Saying so, he glanced at her, his tone carrying some arrogance. The young girl immediately raised her head. Do you know, poison grassland is covered in purple poisonous fog, breathing it for a long time will poison you. I have a Gu worm that can detoxify it. Also, the deeper you go into the grassland, the thicker the poisonous fog, and there are also ghosts and vengeful spirits. At that time, you will not be able to tell the direction, only my return heart Gu can point you to the correct way back. Gulp, the young girl was speaking when her stomach suddenly made a sound. Fang Yuan looked at her stomach, and the young girl's face instantly turned red. She stuttered as she explained, that, my big stomach horse was eaten by poison beard wolves. Yuan stone and rations are all inside. Big stomach horse was a type of riding beast, it was very common in northern plains. It had 2 stomachs, one main stomach was used to digest food, while the other was used to store supplies. Northern plains Gu masters, when migrating, would use large numbers of these big stomach horses. Fang Yuan asked curiously, your father is the tribe leader of Gu tribe, and you are his daughter, why are you using such an ordinary riding beast? Sigh, it is because he took my Gu. I escaped alone, and was able to bring along a big stomach horse, and even prepare so many supplies, it is already very amazing. Guyao was a straightforward person, but after saying it, she felt it was inappropriate, and her expression froze, realizing she had said something wrong. Escaped? Is it to escape marriage? Fang Yuan raised his brows. The young girl exclaimed, her eyes wide open as she looked at Fang Yuan, you have a mind reading Gu. How did you know? Fang Yuan laughed. He was only guessing, but it was not without evidence. In northern plains, women's status was much lower than men. They could even be treated as goods in the market, and be bought and sold casually. In southern border, there were female tribe leaders, but in northern plains, there were no such cases. Women could not hold power. Why was it so? This tradition could be traced back to the era of the giant sun immortal. And in his memories, in these 3 years, northern plains was filled with heroes vying for supremacy. A storm was brewing. In the end, the He family's patriarch, He Lulan, succeeded in becoming the ruler of the imperial court for 10 years. He was also the most controversial ruler of the grassland in later generations. He Lulan was extremely lecherous. After he dominated the grasslands, he searched for beauties from all the tribes and took them into his harem. But on the other hand, he promoted new policies to raise the status of women in an attempt to make men and women equal. This severely violated the interests of all sides. It intensified the conflicts and caused the political system of northern plains to become unstable. Thus, He Lulan had only been the ruler of the grasslands for 2 years before she was tricked into leaving the royal court by her own people and assassinated. Soon after, all the tribes united to overthrow He tribe's rule and fight for the throne of the imperial court again. The bloody storm lasted for 5 years before it gradually subsided. After this battle, the various clans of the grassland went through a chaotic battle, and their vitality was greatly damaged. It would also be a failure for Zhongzhou state in the battle to attack the 4 regions in the future. Thus, many young girls in northern plains would often choose to escape from arranged marriages. The girl in front of him was the daughter of a tribe leader, but she came to poison grassland alone. Fang Yuan naturally had such a guess. Fang Yuan took out food from moving perspective cup Gu and gave it to Guyao. This girl was clearly extremely hungry. As she wolfed down the food, her eyes turned as she said in a muffled voice, "The one who wants to marry me is Man Duo from Man tribe. He is the 3rd son of Man tribe leader. He is thin and small like a monkey, and his body is frail and sickly. He only has rank 2 cultivation. Normally, he uses his father to bully the men and women in the tribe. He does not have any heroic spirit. I do not want to marry such a good-for-nothing. But Man tribe is powerful. Our good tribe has just migrated here and our strength is greatly reduced." Man tribe's betrothal gift was very grand. They even promised to give a piece of fertile grassland to our good tribe. Father saw this and wanted to marry me off. In a fit of anger, I escaped. Warrior Chang Shan-in, why don't you kidnap me? Northern Plains people were fierce and had a custom, that was to kidnap a bride. The bride who was kidnapped was often more precious than the bride who was officially married. Fang Yuan laughed, "I have no interest in you, quickly eat, we will continue our journey after you are full." Guyao's black eyes moved. "There is another way, that is to marry into our good tribe. According to the rules of the grassland, only warriors can have beauties. Even if Man tribe comes to find trouble, they will have to follow the rules and let that skinny monkey Man Duo fight you one-on-one. Warrior Chang Shan-in, you are so strong, you can definitely beat that Man Duo into a pig's head." Fang Yuan stopped smiling. "I said I have no interest in you." Guyao, however, was even more passionate, showing the direct and unrestrained nature of northern plains women. "Why not? Am I not beautiful? I am the beauty of good tribe. That Man Duo saw me from afar and became infatuated with me, begging his father to propose marriage. Warrior Chang Shan-in, marrying into good tribe is also good for you. You are an outsider. If you do not marry into our tribe, others will not treat you as one of their own. You will always be ostracized and guarded against in northern plains." Fang Yuan said solemnly, "I said before, I am a northern plainsman." Guyao laughed, "Warrior, you can't lie to me. Your accent betrays your background. Your food is not northern plains tea cakes and meat jerky. Just marry me, don't you feel that our meeting is arranged by the longevity heaven?" Fang Yuan lowered his eyelids, a cold light flashed in his eyes as the smile on his face widened. "Let me think about it first, you don't have to make a decision so hastily," Fang Yuan said as he took out Yuan stone and passed it to Guyao. Gu Yao nodded. Then you have to think carefully, think carefully. She took the yuan stone and said in a serious tone, I will return these yuan stones to you. Fang Yuan nodded. Gu Yao did not speak anymore, instead concentrating on absorbing the yuan stone to replenish her primeval essence and quickly recover her strength. Fang Yuan's punches landed on flesh, his attacks were fierce, and Gu Yao's blood boiled as she watched. This is a true man. She praised in her heart, and after getting rid of the trouble around her, she shouted and summoned a water dragon, charging towards the wolf group. She was a rank 3 middle stage Gu master after all, she could not be underestimated. The wolf group was attacked, and immediately went into chaos, a large portion of them charged towards her. Fang Yuan's expression changed, and he shouted, Who told you to come? Go to the side. The young girl's face turned pale from the wolf group's counterattack, and she quickly retreated. Fang Yuan continued to charge with boundless momentum, and after spending a lot of effort, he managed to get the wolf group's attention back to him. After a while, he suddenly erupted, and sent out beast phantoms, breaking the wolf king's defense. Taking this chance, he got close, and pressed the wolf king's head on the ground, and punched it fiercely. The scene was brutal, and this wolf king that was about to become 1,000 beast king was beaten to death by Fang Yuan just like that. Chapter 433. Once the wolf king died, the wolf group's morale collapsed and they fled. An intense battle ended abruptly. You are injured. Gu Yao ran over, her gaze filled with concern. It's nothing. Fang Yuan's injuries looked terrifying, but they were all under his control. He immediately activated Self-Reliance Gu, rapidly healing his injuries. But Self-Reliance Gu was only a rank 3 Gu, in Northern Plains, it could only be used as a rank 2 Gu. After Fang Yuan's injuries healed, its effect immediately weakened. Warrior Chang Shan Yin, let me heal you. Gu Yao waved her hand, water vapor rose and condensed into a jade-green cloud above Fang Yuan's head. Green rain drizzled down from the cloud, sprinkling on Fang Yuan's body, healing his injuries. This is spring rain Gu. Fang Yuan frowned, this Gu has a wide healing range, isn't it a waste to use it on me alone? Disperse. Saying so, he waved his hand, activating Golden Wind Gu. This Gu came from Tai Mu Bai, it was a rank 4 healing Gu, although it only had rank 3 effects now, it was still a top-tier Gu. Gu Yao looked at a golden whirlwind that formed around Fang Yuan, after a few rounds, all the injuries on Fang Yuan's body disappeared. What Gu is this? The young girl asked curiously. Fang Yuan did not answer her, instead turning around and squatting on the ground, carefully searching the wolf king's corpse. Gu Yao followed closely behind him, bending down and looking at him, praising, Warrior Chang Shan Yin, you are a true expert. Father always says that I have a body full of cultivation, but I am terrible in battles. Today, I saw you charging into the wolf group, it was such a dangerous matter, but you did it with ease, as if it was very easy. Only then did I realize that what Abba said was right. Fang Yuan snorted, standing up straight. He had 500 years of battle experience, it was easy for him to do this. If not for the suppression of the region, how could this small wolf group fight for so long? He had just checked, there were 3 wild Gu on the Wolf King, but they were all dead. Without any spoils of war, Fang Yuan's expression turned ugly. He glanced at Gu Yao and said unhappily, oh no. You're not just terrible. It's terrible. Gu Yao was furious. Hey! You're so direct. You attacked recklessly just now and lured away a large number of wolves, almost ruining my plan. Do you have a cow's head on your head? Fang Yuan coldly snorted and asked. Gu Yao knew that she had indeed made a mistake. She lowered her head and looked at her toes. You attracted most of the wolves. I know you did it for my own good. But I also want to help you. Fang Yuan sighed. Forget it. I won't pursue it this time. For the rest of the journey, in order to prevent you from dragging us down again, I will reluctantly teach you. Who needs you to teach me? Guyao turned around and snorted in dissatisfaction. You need to be calm when using spiral water arrow goo. If you shoot randomly, the biggest result is that you will quickly waste your precious true essence. Water dragon goo consumes a lot of primeval essence, don't use it for no reason. No wonder you don't have enough primeval essence. Don't use spring rain goo, that is a large area of effect healing goo. There are only 2 of us. Along the way, Fang Yuan continued to give pointers to Guyao. The young girl's words earlier were just out of spite. Although she had the temper of a young missy, this concerned her own situation, so she listened to his suggestions seriously and absorbed knowledge to improve herself. The 2 moved on the rotten grass, encountering several wolf groups, but Guyao's performance was getting better each time. Ha, are you afraid now? You hateful poison-beard wolves, scram. Guyao placed her hands on her waist and said proudly after defeating the poison-beard wolves again. So naive. Fang Yuan looked at her back as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He gave pointers to Guyao, not only to raise her battle strength, but also to probe the goo worms in her body. In the end, the young girl leaked all her details to Fang Yuan. Guyao was a water path goo master, rank 3 middle stage. She had the rank 3 fog sparrow goo for scouting. 3 claw water dragon goo and spiral water arrow goo for attacking. For defense, she had water armor goo. For movement, she had water trace goo. For healing, she had spring rain goo. She did not have storage goo, and the big stomach horse she used as a replacement had already died in the wolf group's hands. Other than that, she had cleansing goo for detoxification. Return heart goo for direction identification. This set of goo worms suited her identity. Fog sparrow goo was a very rare scouting goo among rank 3, it could condense fog into sparrows and fly around the surroundings, scouting the surroundings with a very wide range. Its defense and attack were also of high quality. Water trace goo's growth speed could almost match some rank 4 goo. The only flaw was that the footprints would contain water traces, making it easy to track. At the same time, it would wet the shoes. However, this goo had a lot of potential in its development. At rank 4, it could become wave trace goo, and its effect would be even stronger. At rank 5, there were 2 types of fusion paths. One was duck trace wave trace goo, which could be used to dodge on the spot. The other was river wave trace goo, which could move quickly on water. At rank 6, it would be the famous worldly wave trace goo. These goo were all of high quality rank 3. Adding on Fang Yuan's careful guidance and the pressure of the wolf group, it was no wonder that Guyao improved so quickly, and her battle strength rose steadily. Warrior Chang Shan-yin, you are an incredible strategist. Your guidance is even more amazing than the best 3 elders in my tribe. Even if you look down on me, I will invite you to my good tribe as a guest. If you are interested, I will try my best to convince father to let you become an external elder in my tribe. Guyao turned around and walked to Fang Yuan's side, sincerely trying to recruit him. She was after all Gu tribe's young miss, and was knowledgeable. She knew Fang Yuan's value was not only his bravery, but more importantly, his ability to teach others. This was the power of wisdom. If he was around to nurture the tribe's next generation, the entire tribe would become stronger. I can go to Gu tribe as a guest, but I have no interest in becoming an external elder. Fang Yuan started walking again, shaking his head and refusing. Guyao tried to persuade him a few times, but Fang Yuan's attitude was firm. The young girl followed behind Fang Yuan gloomily, staring angrily at Fang Yuan's tall back. You think you are so amazing just because you know how to teach people, humph. I begged you so softly, but you are not moved. You are not even interested in becoming my Gu tribe's external elder. Are you looking down on our Gu tribe? Chang Shan-yin, you scoundrel. Guyao gritted her teeth in hatred, but had a trace of doubt in her heart, but this name Chang Shan-yin is really familiar, I seem to have heard of it somewhere. Where did I hear of it? Poison grassland was covered in dark clouds all year round. In this dusky sky, the two trekked for a while. Fang Yuan stopped. In front of him, there was a large field of sunflowers. These sunflowers had dark purple branches, broad petals as black as ink, and at the heart of the basin-sized flower, there was a pale human face. Ghost-face sunflowers. Seeing this, Guyao quickly held her breath, grabbing Fang Yuan's sleeves, saying in a very soft voice, "Many people must have died here, many ghosts wandered around, that is why so many ghost-faced sunflowers grew." Every ghost-faced sunflower was a wronged soul. Let's take a detour. So many ghost-faced sunflowers must have many ghost cry goo inside them, there might even be ghost-face goo. Ghost cry goo was a rank 3 soul path goo worm, it could emit screams and cause the soul to tremble. Ghost face goo was a rank 4 soul path goo worm, it could cause a huge impact on the soul. Such a large field of ghost face sunflowers, how long would it take a detour? Fang Yuan gazed at this sea of sunflowers, he did not show it on the surface, but he was inwardly happy. This confirmed that the direction he was walking in was not wrong. As long as he walked in this direction, he would find that battlefield 20 years ago, and obtain the goo worms left behind on the battlefield. Northern Plains was different from Southern Border. Southern Border had many mountains, it was easy to distinguish directions. Northern Plains was boundless, it was all grassland, it was easy to get lost. Thus, Guyao would carry the supplementary goo worm, Return Heart Goo. Return Heart Goo could always point to the direction of the Goo Master's home. But Return Heart Goo could only point to the direction, it could not point to the location. Fang Yuan wanted to ensure the direction was correct, he would have to take the risk to cross this sea of sunflowers. Fortunately, he was prepared. Taking out his sleeves from the girl's hand, Fang Yuan squatted down, placing his palms on the ground, then mobilized his primeval essence, activating the goo worms in his aperture. Soon, green grass grew on the ground. The lush grass grew steadily, the slender grass leaves intertwined with each other, gradually forming human-shaped puppets. Enslavement Path, Rank 3 Grass Puppet Goo. This was a goo worm that only Southern Border had. Guyao watched in amazement as grass puppets grew one after another, quickly gathering into a field. These grass puppets were short and sturdy, the grass leaves were tightly woven, holding a bamboo blade in one hand, and a rattan shield in the other. These were the rank 3 rattan shell grass soldiers. In the past, on Sancha Mountain, when Fang Yuan fought 1 against 7, Tai Ruanan had used this goo. Afterwards, when Fang Yuan killed a goo master in 3 Kings' blessed land, his spoils of war included the grass puppet goo. Grass puppet goo was quite common in Southern Border. Rank 3 grass puppet goo could form rattan shell grass soldiers, having the battle strength to kill a rank 1 goo master. Rank 4 grass puppet goo could form grass sword elite soldiers, having even stronger battle strength. But in Northern Plains, the grass puppet goo would also be suppressed. The formed rattan shell grass soldiers would become weak. But Fang Yuan did not use this batch of rattan shell grass soldiers for battle, so it did not matter. After a while, close to 1,000 rattan shell grass soldiers opened up a path in front of them. Fang Yuan held Guyao's hand, and under the protection of another 100 rattan shell grass soldiers, entered the sea of ghost-face sunflowers. Ah! Ma! Every time Ghost Cry Goo let out a shriek, a group of rattan shell grass soldiers would fall. Ghost Cry Goo's sounds were also different. Some were sharp screams, some were like trembling sheep's cries, and some seemed to be complaining with hidden bitterness. Ghost, there are ghost faces rising up. The girl shuddered, looking at the pale and terrifying ghost faces floating up from the sea of sunflowers, her delicate body trembling in fear. Fang Yuan gently patted her hand, then calmly mobilized the puppets. Chapter 434. The process of crossing the sea of sunflowers was a close shave. Guyao looked back and let out a breath of turbid air, her worried heart was finally at ease. To think it was so easy to cross the sea of ghost-face sunflowers. After calming down, the young girl looked at the grass puppets around her. There were only dozens of puppets left, forming a weak defense around her. Guyao had never seen such a gu in her life. Today was an eye-opener. These gu, although their battle strength is not high, they are the best cannon fodder. Chang Shan-yin really came prepared. Thinking of this, the young girl turned around and sized up the people around her. The more she interacted with Fang Yuan, the more curious Guyao became, and the stronger her desire to investigate became. What kind of person is he? What is his motive in entering poison grassland? Chang Shan-yin, Chang Shan-yin. I have really heard of this name before. Ah! The young girl's face suddenly turned red. When crossing the sea of sunflowers earlier, Fang Yuan held her hand. Those ghostly cries and the floating ghostly faces scared her, and she unconsciously got closer to Fang Yuan, gradually hugging his arm in her bosom, but she did not even notice it. Guyao quickly let go of Fang Yuan's arm, breaking free from his grasp. After pulling a safe distance, Fang Yuan slowly stopped and turned around to look at the sunflowers behind him. These ghost cry gu and ghost face gu are good gu, but I do not have specialized gu worms to capture them. Capturing wild gu worms also required special methods. These two gu worms belonged to Soul Path, and the gu needed to capture them were even more special. It is time. Fang Yuan's gaze concentrated, throwing away the regret in his heart. He turned his gaze to the immortal gu on his shoulder, fixed immortal travel. The immortal gu's aura was too strong, it could not be stored in mortal apertures. Spring-autumn cicada could barely be stored because it was weak. Even though Fang Yuan ordered fixed immortal travel to lie on his shoulder and not move, the immortal gu's aura was still leaking. If a gu immortal sensed it, it would be a fatal disaster. Thankfully, Fang Yuan was prepared for this. He took out bright pearl gu. Go! He injected his primeval essence and bright pearl gu immediately turned into a ball of gentle white light, floating towards fixed immortal travel and covering it. Bright pearl gu was a rank 4 storage gu, it was specially used to seal gu worms and make them hibernate, making them easy to preserve. Fang Yuan expended almost all of his primeval essence before successfully sealing fixed immortal travel gu. Fixed immortal travel gu was shaped like a jade butterfly, sealed in a fist-sized transparent pearl. But it was an immortal gu, its aura was still leaking from this pearl. However, it was many times weaker than before. Fang Yuan was not surprised. This was just the first step. The rest of the journey was much smoother. Perhaps it was because of the obstruction of the sunflower sea, the poison-beard wolves did not appear again. As the two of them went deeper into the grassland, the poisonous mist became thicker and thicker. They could already clearly see the purple mist floating in the air. When the two started coughing, they stopped and took out their gu worms to clear the accumulated poison in their bodies. The deeper they went into the grassland, the thicker the poisonous fog became. The two of them stopped more frequently as well. In order to avoid breathing in too much of the poisonous mist while talking, the lively Guyao also began to remain silent. Gradually, the purple poisonous fog started to block their vision. How much deeper do we have to go? Guyao could not help but ask. The depths of the poisonous grassland was a forbidden zone for life. The deeper they went, the stronger the beasts inside. Many experts who went to explore died here, never to return. Among them, there were many rank 3 peak stage and rank 4 experts. Soon. Fang Yuan replied plainly, his footsteps slowing down until he stopped. Are we there? Is it here? Guyao asked excitedly. Fang Yuan did not say a word, he squatted down carefully and pushed aside the twisted poisonous grass on the ground, revealing a cave that was covered by the grass. This cave was as big as a bowl. The edges were smooth. The cave was deep and dark. Guyao saw this and her gaze froze, her breathing became rapid. This is the hole dug by the earth spike rats. There are thousands of them, they gather in groups and hide under the grass. As long as there is a slight tremor, they will attack from underground. Their heads are like steel, once they shoot out, they can pierce through a person's feet. Even the hooves of iron hooves horses can be easily pierced. We cannot go any further. Once we are surrounded, we have no chance of survival, we will be drowned by the countless earth spike rats. Along the way, we did not meet any poison beard wolves, this means that the earth spike rats are the overlords here. Maybe the earth spike rat king underground is a myriad beast king. The young girl had lived in the grassland since young, she knew the strength of the earth spike rats very well. No, my destination is still ahead. Fang Yuan stood up. Chang Shan-yin. Excessive bravery is courting death. You won't be able to walk through it. In fact, if you take just a few steps, you'll be surrounded by the gophers, Guyao hurriedly advised. But Fang Yuan smiled plainly, who said I want to go there? The moment he said that, pitch-black bone wings grew out from his back. This is... Guyao stared with wide eyes, before she could react, Fang Yuan had already carried her. As the young girl screamed, Fang Yuan flapped his wings and flew off the ground. Guyao felt her heart in her throat, the wind whistled in her ears, she felt like she was flying in the clouds, her legs were not touching the ground, she subconsciously hugged Fang Yuan's neck tightly. After a while, the young girl adapted and smiled in Fang Yuan's embrace. Fang Yuan, to think you can fly. Father has a soaring cloud gu, when I was young, he often brought me to play in the sky. Sigh, it is a pity that the soaring cloud gu is a rank 4 gu, it is not suitable for me. Even if I could use it, father would not allow it, he is afraid I would fall from the sky. Guyao recalled for a while before asking curiously, Chang Shan-yin, what flying gu is this? Why have I never seen it before? Fang Yuan did not reply. The young girl was unresigned, is this the rank 3 eagle wings gu? This height and speed is about the same as the eagle wings gu. But it doesn't seem to be. Fang Yuan sighed, you have too many questions. Rather than asking questions, why don't you use your energy on the shadow crows in front of us? Shadow crows? The young girl reacted and saw 3 shadow crows in front of her, silently approaching them. The shadow crows were as big as eagles, their bodies were pitch black, they did not make any movements when flying, and were even more concealed in this dark poison grassland. The young girl's face turned pale, her voice trembling, Chang Shan-yin, how is your flying skill? If it is not possible, we can fly to the grassland and defend. Don't worry. Fang Yuan's voice was still calm, I am hugging you, I cannot attack casually. Now, let's see if your spiraling water arrow is accurate. What? Ah! Before the young girl understood, Fang Yuan flapped his wings and charged towards the 3 shadow crows. Fang Yuan used his actions to give Guyao the answer. This is too crazy. He did not think of escaping, but instead wants to kill these 3 shadow crows. Guyao's heart was shaken, and she hurriedly shot out 2 water arrows. But of these 2 water arrows, one missed completely, while the other brushed past the shadow crow's wings. Too slow, again. Fang Yuan made a beautiful turn and flapped his wings, charging towards the shadow crow again. What? Hey, wait, don't fight them head-on. This is not the ground, the opponent is a shadow crow that is extremely fast. Guyao shouted. 2 humans and 3 birds charged towards each other in the air, quickly getting closer. Guyao stared with wide eyes, a shadow crow was getting bigger in her vision, and as it got closer, the shadow crow flashed its blade-like claws. Seeing the sharp claws about to grab her, Guyao's body turned cold from fear, her limbs were stiff, and she could not move. I'm going to crash, I'm going to die. Just as this thought appeared in her mind, Fang Yuan suddenly retracted his wings, and his flying altitude suddenly dropped, brushing past the shadow crow's steel claws. Then he suddenly extended his wings, and after a strong flap, he made a lightning-fast turn in the air, and flew up, scuttling behind the shadow crow. Shoot! Fang Yuan shouted. Guyao reacted, and instinctively pointed with her finger, and a spiraling water arrow flew out. Fang Yuan's flying technique was too good, and he directly flashed behind the shadow crow. The shadow crow's back was completely exposed to Guyao. The spiraling water arrow successfully hit the shadow crow, and passed through it, drawing out a line of blood. The shadow crow instantly died, and like a kite with its string cut, it fell to the ground with a muffled thud. The grassland was silent for a moment, and in an instant, the ground shook slightly, and countless earth spike rats poked their heads out of the holes. The shadow crow's corpse was quickly divided by the closest earth spike rats, and dragged into the holes. The huge shadow crow instantly disappeared, leaving only a puddle of blood on the grassland, and a few pieces of internal organs. When the young girl saw this scene, she immediately became extremely nervous. If she really fell to the ground, she would immediately be attacked by the earth spike rats, and it would definitely be a dead end. What are you thinking about? Hurry up and shoot. Fang Yuan's cold shout broke the girl's thoughts, and she quickly shot out nearly 10 arrows to kill the 2 shadow crows. The 2 shadow crows fell to the ground, and were immediately torn apart by the earth spike rats, and Guyao broke out in cold sweat. Your aim is too bad, hurry up and use the Yuan stone to recover your primeval energy. Under Fang Yuan's scolding, Guyao quickly took out a Yuan stone, but she made a mistake, and the Yuan stone fell out of her hand, and fell to the ground. You idiot! I am sorry. The girl's voice had a trace of sobbing. Focus, calm down. Play at your normal level. There will definitely be a lot of shadow crows, and I still need to rely on you. Fang Yuan's voice softened. Chapter 435. An hour and a half later. Fang Yuan carried Guyao as he landed on the ground. Guyao's legs were weak, her face was pale, she only recovered after taking a few breaths after landing on the ground. In the flight just now, she had killed at least 100 shadow crows, she had felt like she was struggling between life and death several times. The process of flying was filled with danger. Not only did they meet with several waves of shadow crows, they even attracted the attacks of earth spike rats. When in danger, not only would there be countless shadow crows in the sky, the ground would also shoot out countless earth spikes. Under such attacks, Fang Yuan flapped his wings and flew, he continued to turn, dive, and rise. Searching for a possibility in the impossible, he charged out of the rain of attacks and found a chance of survival. I was actually able to survive under such attacks. This was the first thought that appeared in Guyao's mind when she landed on the ground. After the joy of surviving the calamity, the joy of disbelief, and the fear from recalling the past, Guyao looked at Fang Yuan with a complex expression, the latter was healing his injuries. Even if the young girl was ignorant, after this battle, she would recognize Fang Yuan's power in flying. Moreover, Guyao was not an ordinary girl from the grassland, her father was the leader of a tribe. In her past life, Guyao had been influenced by what she had seen and heard, her horizons were broadened and she knew much more than people of the same age. This man in front of me, his flying technique is actually so skilled and powerful. Is the soul of an eagle hidden in his majestic body? Such a flying technique can completely match lightning Dong Pakong, water immortal Song Qing Yin, and green bat Wu Yi. This is the first-rate flying technique of northern plains. Chang Shanyin, what kind of person are you? Fang Yuan quickly healed his injuries. Under the torrential attacks, no matter how powerful his flying technique was, he could not avoid getting hit. Most importantly, the rank 4 bone wings gu was only equivalent to a rank 3 gu in northern plains. At the same time, he was carrying a person, the increase in weight affected his agility. However, with Guyao's help, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. If she didn't use her water arrows and water dragons to kill the crows, and if she didn't use her water armor to protect me, my Zhen Yuan alone would not have been enough. Fang Yuan thought. I am a southern border gu master, when I go to northern plains, my cultivation will be suppressed. But fortunately, as time passes and I gradually integrate into northern plains, this suppression will lessen. Man was the spirit of all living things. He could adapt to his environment and blend in with it. Of course, when Fang Yuan completely integrated into northern plains and recovered his cultivation, when he returned to southern border, he would be suppressed again, he would need to adapt and fuse with it again. Humans can gradually blend into the environment, but goo worms cannot. Southern borders goo worms would continue to be weakened. These guanmi consume the same amount of primeval essence as before, but their effectiveness is greatly reduced. Southern borders rank 4 gu are inferior to northern plains rank 3 gu. But after killing Gu Yao, there was only a small chance that her gu worms would end up in Fang Yuan's hands. Only by using Gu Yao like this could he display the greatest value of this rank 3 middle stage gu master. If not for Gu Yao, I would not be able to advance so quickly. Although her gu worms are good, I cannot obtain them. I need to change these southern border gu worms. Other than considering my battle strength, they are also a huge flaw in my concealment of my identity. I still need to go to that battlefield. Fang Yuan sighed inwardly and took out Bright Pearl Gu. Bright Pearl Gu had fixed immortal travel sealed inside, it was like a pure white amber. In front of Gu Yao, Fang Yuan took out the dust Gu without any hesitation. The dust goo was like a cocoon, it was dark gray in color and felt like sand in his hand. Fang Yuan injected his primeval essence and the dust goo exploded into a puff of gray smoke. The gray smoke had its own intelligence and landed on the bright pearl goo. The bright pearl goo that was emitting a bright white light was covered by this dust and immediately became dim. The immortal goo fixed immortal travel's aura weakened again. This was the dust of the treasure pearl. In the 500 years of Fang Yuan's previous life, when he went to Central Continent and caused the 5 regions' chaotic war, some Gu masters sneaked into other regions to fight and hide their identity and aura, so they developed this method. What are you doing? Gu Yao asked curiously. Fang Yuan did not answer her, he kept the dark pearl and continued on his journey. The two continued to move forward, the poisonous fog in the air was getting thicker and thicker, the purple color was starting to affect their vision. The two had to stop more frequently and use gu worms to get rid of the accumulated poison in their bodies. Crack! A crisp sound came from under their feet, as if they had stepped on a dried tree branch. Gu Yao looked down in confusion, then screamed and quickly jumped back like a rabbit. Why is there a human skull here? Her voice was trembling. Because this place was originally a battlefield. Fang Yuan walked in front of her, he did not turn back and instead quickened his pace. Battlefield? Hey, wait for me, don't walk so fast. Gu Yao quickly followed Fang Yuan's footsteps. The more she walked, the more shocked she became. Originally, the thick purple poisonous fog had blocked her vision, but now that she got closer, she saw that there were many white bones on the slightly rotten grass. There were human bones and also wolf bones. The ground was also filled with deep pits and trenches, it was clear that an intense battle had occurred here. So many people died, who was it that fought a life and death battle here? But the deep pits and trenches were already filled with poisonous grass. Together with the other traces, this battlefield has at least 20 years of history. Gu Yao landed behind Fang Yuan, seeing him searching as if he was looking for something, she immediately understood. So Chang Shan Yin's motive for entering poison grassland was this battlefield. What is he looking for? Wait a minute, there was indeed a huge battle in poison grassland 20 years ago. Father had talked to someone before, I was at the side. A memory surfaced from the depths of Gu Yao's mind. At that time, Gu Yao was still young, around 4 to 5 years old. Her father had invited a distinguished guest to a banquet and brought her with him. In the tent, the adults talked about the heroes of the grassland. Speaking of which, Chang tribe has produced a character this time. You mean Wolf King? That's right. This person is an enslavement path Gu master that Chang tribe heavily nurtured. In his hands, The wolf group can move like the wind and attack like the rain, he can change the formation at will, he is truly skilled. Most importantly, he is a righteous person and is extremely filial to his mother. This time, his mother was poisoned and could only be cured by the snow wash goo on the snow willow. He ignored the obstruction and entered poison grassland alone. Sigh, it was precisely because of this that Wolf King lost his life. That's right, this was a scheme from start to finish, meticulously planned by Wolf King's archenemy Ha-Tu-Gu. Ha-Tu-Gu wanted to kill Wolf King, but Wolf King is not someone to be trifled with. He killed Ha-Tu-Gu's group of bandits and got rid of a huge threat to the grassland. But it is a pity that Wolf King Chang Shan-in, this hero, lost his life in poison grassland. Chang Shan-in. You are Wolf King Chang Shan-in. Thinking of this, Guyao opened her mouth in shock, staring at Fang Yuan. Oh. You also know Chang Shan-in? Fang Yuan replied plainly, still searching for something. But Guyao shook her head, no, that's not right. Looking at his age, if Chang Shan-in was still alive, he should be 40 or 50 years old. How could he be at your age? Moreover, your appearance and accent are all wrong. You are not Chang Shan-in. He, if I am not Chang Shan-in, then who am I? That's right, who are you? Why are you pretending to be a dead Gu master? Guyao was full of questions. Suddenly, her eyes brightened, wait. Although not long after Chang Shan-in died, his mother also died from the poison. But he is already married and left behind a bloodline. His son has already grown up and is also an outstanding talent. Don't tell me, you are Chang Shan-yin's son. Fang Yuan smiled and was about to answer her, when he heard a strange sound. This sound was like old wheels rolling on the ground. Along with this voice, a huge white bone wheel rolled out from the purple mist. It was as tall as two people, half a foot wide, and was made of white bones. The surface of the wheel was covered in sharp bone spikes. At the center of the wheel was a huge skull. The terrifying eye sockets of the skull were burning with blood-red flames. Be careful, this is Ha-Tu-Gu's rank 5 Gu, Battle Bone Wheel. Fang Yuan had just warned when the wheel suddenly accelerated, rolling over with an imposing aura. Golden Dragon Gu. Fang Yuan pushed with his palms, the golden dragon roared and slammed onto the wheel. The wheel shook for a moment before easily crushing the golden dragon and crashing into Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan quickly spread his bone wings and flew into the sky. But the wheel also lifted off the ground and flew into the sky. Golden Coat Gu. Fang Yuan saw that he could not dodge and could only take it head-on. Bam! He was sent flying and landed on the ground, his body covered in mud and grass. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 3 spiraling water arrows hit the wheel. The white bone wheel landed on the ground, raising a large amount of mud. It gave up on Fang Yuan and changed its direction, crashing towards Guyao. Guyao quickly activated Water Trace Gu and activated her water armor, dodging and retaliating. Fang Yuan also rushed over to help. This was a tough battle. The opponent was a rank 5 Gu, the core Gu that the original owner, Ha-Tu-Gu, relied on to become famous. After Ha-Tu-Gu died, it became a wild Gu, feeding on the white bones on the battlefield. The white bone chariot's attacks were majestic and fierce, often crushing its opponents into meat paste. Fang Yuan was suppressed and his battle strength fell, he did not bring a rank 5 Gu and could not fight the white bone wheel head-on. His original plan was to avoid the white bone wheel and search for Chang Shan-yin's corpse. But now that he had Guyao's help, he changed his plan and chose to fight. After fighting for over 4 hours, relying on Fang Yuan's tactic of restraining the enemy, the two bullied the white bone wheel's lack of intelligence. They took turns to breathe and gradually wore down the white bone wheel, finally causing it to fall to the ground. After the battle was decided, Fang Yuan immediately placed his hands on the white bone wheel and swept it with his will and primeval essence. The white bone wheel was a rank 5 goo, thus even rank 6 spring-autumn cicada and fixed immortal travel's aura could not help Fang Yuan refine it instantly. But the wheel was full of cracks and almost fell apart, it was in a terrible state and was on the verge of destruction. Fang Yuan had 100-man soul, he was full of vigor and his will was like steel, he poured his primeval essence into it and spent another 15 minutes before he finally subdued it. Chapter 436. Fang Yuan's consciousness entered his aperture. After the white bone wheel entered the aperture, it floated on the sea of true gold primeval essence, floating along with the waves, looking lifeless. Goo worms would naturally get injured, destroyed or even perish. This white bone wheel is on the verge of breaking, it cannot be used anymore. Unless I can find the bone bamboo goo and combine it with the ghost fire goo to heal it. Fang Yuan pondered in his heart. There were many healing goo that did not target the human body. Some goo, like wolf smoke goo, were used to heal the injuries of wolves and jackals. Some goo, like pig iron goo, were used to heal the chainsaw golden centipede. Bone bamboo goo, combined with ghost fire goo, could heal the white bone wheel and allow it to fight again. Speaking of which, this white bone wheel goo is very famous, it was created by the rank 8 demonic path goo immortal Shen Jiao. This person was called Proud Bone Demon Lord. He had outstanding talent, and when he advanced to rank 6, he did not have an immortal goo, so he thought of a killer move called White Bone War Chariot. White Bone War Chariot is made from white bone wheel and many other rank 5 goo, it is very powerful, comparable to a rank 6 immortal goo. Relying on this amazing idea, Shen Jiao cultivated to rank 8 realm, and brought the killer move White Bone Battlefield to greater heights, combining 3 immortal goo to form an even more powerful killer move, White Bone Battlefield. He relied on this to move unhindered in the world, slaughtering countless goo immortals, his fierce name spread far and wide, causing the righteous path to be helpless. Sigh, when can I cultivate to this realm? In his previous life, Fang Yuan had rank 6 cultivation, a crucial step away from rank 7. Afterwards, he refined spring-autumn cicada, but was besieged by righteous path goo immortals, and had no choice but to self-detonate. Every time he thought of Blood Sea Ancestor, Proud Bone Demon Lord, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable, these characters, Fang Yuan could not help but yearn for them. A man should be like this in this world, unrestrained by the mortal world, fearless and unrestrained, killing whoever they don't like. When my heart is evil, I slaughter all living beings, when my heart is kind, I bless the world. The world moves according to my heart, I rule over everything, and trample on all enemies who dare to resist me. This is true freedom, a carefree life. Fang Yuan sighed deeply in his heart, taking out the bright pearl goo from his pocket. Bright pearl goo was already covered in dust, its light was dim. Fixed immortal travel was sealed inside, the immortal goo's aura was also weakening. Fang Yuan took out the dark throw goo. This goo was similar in shape to the dust goo. It was also a silkworm cocoon, but its body was deep black. Fang Yuan mobilized his primeval essence and the black cocoon wriggled. Dozens of threads twisted out like snakes and climbed onto the bright pearl goo. In a few blinks of an eye, the bright pearl goo was wrapped in a layer of black cocoon. This was known as casting pearls before swine. It was a method developed during the Battle of the 5 Regions to conceal the aura of goo worms. As a result, the aura of fixed immortal travel became even weaker. Warrior Chang Shan-yin, you want to seal this beautiful jade butterfly? Gu Yao stood at the side, gradually realizing what was going on. Fang Yuan gave her a mysterious smile and put the black bead into his pocket before continuing to search the battlefield. This battlefield was left behind from the battle between Chang Shan-yin and Ha Tu Gu over 20 years ago. Chang Shan-yin was a rank 4 peak stage Gu master, while Ha Tu Gu was a rank 5 initial stage Gu master with a large group of subordinates. They were playmates who grew up together, but the woman they fell in love with at the same time chose Chang Shan-yin in the end. From then on, hatred was formed, and because of the subsequent events, the hatred deepened until it could only be washed away with each other's lives and blood. After Ha-Tu-Gu poisoned Chang Shan-Yin's mother, Chang Shan-Yin led his wolf group deep into poison grassland to find the snow-washed Gu. After that, Chang Shan-Yin set up an ambush here, and when Ha-Tu-Gu charged in with the horse bandits, large groups of wolves came from all directions. This tragic life and death battle was fought until the heavens and the earth darkened. Eventually, the wolf group was annihilated, and the horse bandits either died or escaped. Chang Shan-Yin, who was at the end of his rope, fought with Ha-Tu-Gu, who had exhausted his primeval essence. Both of them were in a frenzy, using everything they could. They wrestled with each other, using their teeth to bite, using their hands to dig, using all the strength in their bodies, before both of them collapsed on the ground, without even the strength to breathe. These two mortal enemies, once the closest companions, were only 2 to 3 steps away from each other, but they could only pant and stare at each other. They were both strong Gu masters, one was a glorious hero, the other was a notorious demon, but both of them had lost their strength. At this moment, they were as weak as children, even if a rabbit ran over and blocked their mouths, they would suffocate to death. After a moment of deadlock, Ha-Tu-Gu suddenly laughed loudly. He was after all a rank 5 Gu master, his primeval essence recovery speed was faster than Chang Shan-Yin's. His primeval essence recovered first, it was enough for him to use the poisonous bone spear once. Seeing the bone spear shooting towards him, Chang Shan-Yin's eyes opened wide, a miraculous trace of strength burst forth in this desperate situation. Using this bit of strength, he struggled to turn half his body, but the poisonous bone spear that was aimed at his head still pierced his chest. The intense pain made Chang Shan-Yin roar in anger. Using the wolf strength Gu to amplify his strength, he broke the thin bone spear, holding it in his hand, he dragged his body step by step to Ha-Tu-Gu's side. Finally, Chang Shan-Yin stabbed the green spear tip into Ha-Tu-Gu's eye socket, killing this mortal enemy of his. Although Chang Shan-Yin won, the poison on the bone spear had already spread throughout his body. Using the primeval essence that he had just recovered, he activated the wolf fetus earth burial Gu. This Gu was refined from 108 different kinds of pregnant female wolves, it was specially used to save lives. As long as there was a trace of life force, it would be able to keep them alive. Chang Shan-Yin used this Gu and burrowed into the ground, falling into a deep sleep, struggling at death's door. After over 30 years, Ma Hongyun, who was still a rank 3 Gu master, was chased here by the wolf group. In a desperate situation, he unexpectedly found Chang Shan-Yin who was buried underground. After Ma Hongyun saved Chang Shan-Yin, the latter not only helped him repel the wolf group, he even worked hard for him and became one of the 4 great generals in order to repay him for saving his life. In the struggle for dominance in the grassland, he made countless contributions and pushed Ma Hongyun, who was originally a slave, to the throne of the Lord of the Imperial Court. Chang Shan-Yin's life was full of ups and downs, he was a legend. When he reappeared in the world, his story was widely spread in northern plains, it was not a secret. Later, with Ma Hongyun's help, he cultivated to rank 7 Gu immortal realm and obtained the title of Sky Wolf General, gaining even more authority. Finally, he resisted the invasion of Central Continent and died in battle. His descendants wrote his biography, this was also the reason why Fang Yuan was so clear about the process. Oh! I found it. After a long search, there was finally a result. Fang Yuan's footsteps paused as he found a huge wolf tail on the grassland. This wolf tail was covered in mud and was mostly covered by poisonous grass, it was almost invisible. If not for Fang Yuan already having a target and carefully searching, he would not have found it. Back then, when Ma Hongyun was escaping, he tripped on this wolf tail. After he pulled out this wolf tail, he saved Chang Shan-Yin and himself. Fang Yuan was overwhelmed with emotions, he grabbed the wolf tail and pulled it out. Immediately, the ground rumbled and a huge female wolf's body was brought out. Her eyes were closed, her body was covered in purple fur and her belly was snow white. Her body was huge, even when she was lying down, she was as tall as a person. Guyao quickly ran over with a surprised expression. What wolf is this? Why is it so big? Oh my, it looks like a female wolf, look at her bulging belly, she must be pregnant. This is not a wolf, it is a gu. Fang Yuan said as he took out a sharp dagger from the moving perspective cup gu. He stabbed the dagger into the wolf's belly and forcefully made a long cut. Instantly, the swollen belly split open and large amounts of amniotic fluid mixed with blood gushed out of the wound, drenching Fang Yuan's lower body. Guyao saw that the situation was bad and quickly jumped back to prevent herself from being implicated. Next, she opened her mouth in shock, shouting, "Why is there a person in the wolf fetus?" Along with the amniotic fluid, there was another person. It was the real Chang Shan. His eyes were closed and his body was riddled with injuries, especially the half-bone spear that was stuck in his chest. His whole body was covered in sticky amniotic fluid, his expression was painful and his skin was pale green. Fang Yuan quickly squatted down and stretched out his hands, seemingly inspecting Chang Shan-yin's injuries, but in fact, he was secretly pinching Chang Shan-yin's neck. The pitiful Chang Shan-yin was a hero, he successfully killed his mortal enemy and used gu worms to extend his life for over 20 years. Originally, in another 10 years or so, a fated monarch would have come to save him. But now, Fang Yuan interfered and killed this future influential figure, the famous Sky Wolf General, a future rank 7 gu immortal. Chang Shan-yin was already at his last breath, he had no consciousness and could not defend himself, he only had a weak breath left. When Fang Yuan killed him, his body did not even tremble. Not to mention using his consciousness to detonate the gu worms. Fang Yuan's consciousness entered his aperture and immediately found several turtle breath gu inside. Turtle breath gu was a storage gu, similar to bright pearl gu, used to seal gu worms. Before Chang Shan-yin entered the wolf's stomach, to prevent the gu worms in his body from starving to death, he sealed them one by one in the turtle breath gu. These rank 4 gu were like oval-shaped rocks, slightly bigger than a fist. The surface of the rocks was covered in veins, making people think of a turtle shell. Once spring-autumn cicada's aura leaked out, Fang Yuan instantly refined these turtle breath gu. He took out all these turtle breath gu and under Guyao's curious gaze, he crushed them one by one, revealing the gu worms inside. A total of 8 gu worms, all belonging to the enslavement path, they were all rare rank 4 gu. Among them, some were even more precious than ordinary rank 5 gu. Chang Shan-yin used this set of gu worms to make a name for himself in northern plains. He then used this gu to kill a rank 5 enemy. Using spring-autumn cicada, Fang Yuan kept all of them for his own use. Chapter 437. But just obtaining gu worms was not Fang Yuan's entire goal. After throwing these gu worms into his aperture, he looked at Chang Shan-yin's corpse. He started to use gu worms to detoxify the corpse. Isn't he already dead? Guyao asked with a strange expression. Detoxifying a living person was fine, but why did he have to detoxify a dead person? Fang Yuan did not answer her directly, instead requesting, "Don't just watch, use your cleansing gu to help." With Fang Yuan and Guyao's help, the poison in Chang Shan-yin's body was gradually expelled. Is he Chang Shan-yin? Your father? Guyao suddenly realized something, looking at Fang Yuan with an inquisitive gaze. But she quickly denied it. No, Chang Shan-yin's son is a northern plains native. From your appearance, you are an outsider. Fang Yuan snorted, saying expressionlessly, I said, I am Chang Shan-yin. As the poison dissipated, the pale green color on Chang Shan-yin's skin faded away, returning to his original skin color. Fang Yuan saw that it was about time, he called the girl to the side and took off Chang Shan-yin's clothes, using clean water to wash them. You want to bring his corpse back? Guyao guessed. But immediately after, Fang Yuan's actions overturned her guess. The girl saw Fang Yuan taking out a lump of black ants from his aperture. Fang Yuan used his primeval essence, and the black ants immediately dispersed, landing on Chang Shan Yin's naked and pale corpse and starting to eat. These black ants crawled all over Chang Shan Yin's body, swallowing his skin, leaving behind a completely unrecognizable corpse with its flesh and tendons exposed. Gu Yao saw this and almost vomited in disgust. Fang Yuan collected this lump of black ants again, taking out a seed and planting it on the ground. As he injected his primeval essence, the seed sprouted at a visible speed, growing into a beautiful flower. The flower bloomed, but in the center of the flower was a strange and thick blood-colored membrane, like a person's mouth. Inside the petals, there were rows of tiny serrations. The black ants gathered together and climbed up the flower, burrowing into the heart of the flower. The flower closed up again. The sawtooth inside rotated crazily and rubbed against each other. The entire flower trembled and made a buzzing sound. Fang Yuan took out another goo, and before Gu Yao could see it clearly, the goo turned into a colorful flame and attached itself to the strange and terrifying flower. In the burning of the flames, the flowers twisted crazily, letting out squeaking sounds. The scream was so sharp that Gu Yao had to take a dozen steps back and cover her ears with both hands. At this point, the young girl also knew that something was wrong. Such a strange method exuded a sinister demonic aura. Gu Yao looked at Fang Yuan with a pale face, but the latter's expression did not change. He stood on the spot, his eyes shining as he stared at the flower bud beneath his feet. Open! Suddenly, Fang Yuan's eyes flashed and he shouted. A small slit opened up on the corolla, absorbing all the colorful flames. Next, the entire flower bud exploded and a goo flew out. This goo was colorful and constantly changing colors, sometimes yellow-green, sometimes blood-purple. It was like smoke or mist, floating in the air. Human skin goo, I have finally refined it. Fang Yuan saw this and let out a long sigh of relief. He then took out a clean and sharp dagger from the moving perspective cup goo. The following scene will be a little bloody, you can close your eyes. He held the dagger and said to Gu Yao. Gu Yao's breathing was slightly rough, she looked at Fang Yuan with a bewildered gaze, not saying a word. But at the next moment, the young girl's pupils shrunk and she covered her mouth with both hands, but she could not hide her scream. Under her frightened gaze, Fang Yuan aimed the dagger at his chest and lightly cut it. Swoosh! He cut from his neck all the way to his abdomen. But the strange thing was, his blood did not flow out, he had already prepared the hemostasis goo. Next, Fang Yuan expressionlessly moved the dagger around his body, then he stretched out his hand and peeled off the skin on his chest. When the young girl saw this horrifying scene, she couldn't help but take a few steps back. Her face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth and willed, the colorful smoke in the air floated over and covered his chest. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, with a strange sound, Fang Yuan's exposed bloody tendons were covered by a new layer of skin. But the strange thing was, although this layer of skin had just grown, it was not as delicate as a baby's, but pale and old skin. Next, Fang Yuan did the same thing, peeling off the skin on his arms and legs and growing new skin. This, don't tell me. Gu Yao gradually realized something and was tongue-tied. Peeling off the skin on his back was a little troublesome. Fang Yuan spent a lot of effort and finally succeeded. Finally, the most crucial part was the skin on his face. Fang Yuan stopped and rested for a while before raising the dagger and pointing it at his eyelids. Gu Yao's body trembled, but Fang Yuan's hands were as steady as iron, every movement was precise and precise. He first cut off his eyelids, then along his eye sockets, the tip of the dagger went out to his ears, then along his cheeks to his chin. Turning his chin, he cut to the other side, finally forming a complete circle. Next, Gu Yao saw Fang Yuan peeling off the skin on his face, her heart pounded and she felt her legs go soft. The colorful smoke floated over, giving him new skin on his face. Next, Fang Yuan changed the skin on the back of his neck, behind his ears, and on his scalp. When he turned around and faced Gu Yao, he was a completely different person. He had turned into Chang Shan. I said, I am Chang Shan. He spoke with a plain tone. Gu Yao looked at Fang Yuan in disbelief. Fang Yuan's voice was in the purest Northern Plains accent. Fang Yuan could speak in a Northern Plains accent, it was just that he did not say it before. You. She pointed at Fang Yuan, her body trembling and her face pale, her expression filled with fear. Fang Yuan laughed in disdain. The human body is like a bag of skin, it is just a change of skin, why are you making such a fuss? The so-called beauty and ugliness are superficial and weak things. If it was on earth, it would be fine if the human strength was exhausted and the path to immortality was severed. In this world, only eternal life was worth pursuing. As for this human skin goo, it was a recipe developed by goo masters hundreds of years later, during the Five Regions chaotic war. It could allow a goo master to disguise as another person, with no difference in appearance. Many Central Continent goo masters relied on the human skin goo to infiltrate the enemy's headquarters, assassinate and wreak havoc, greatly boosting Central Continent's offensive, causing the other 4 regions' people to be fearful and suspicious of each other. Ignoring the girl who was scared out of her wits, Fang Yuan stood on the spot, slowly raising his hands in front of his eyes. Now, his hands had completely changed. Every fingerprint and handprint on his hands was the same as Chang Shan-yin's. Then, he reached out and touched his chest. His chest was originally smooth and flat, but now there was chest hair, extending from his throat all the way to his crotch. He touched his face, and the first thing he felt was the straight nose of the Northern Plains people, and then his rough cheeks. He took out a mirror and looked at himself. His face was completely Chang Shan-yin's face. Even the hair that had grown out was the same as his. Even the white hair on his temples was the same. Human skin goo was the main material used to refine goo using human skin. In fact, its transformation was comprehensive. Not only the skin, but also the hair, the color of the pupils, the shape of the bones, and even the old wounds could be replicated vividly. Gu Yao looked at the current Fang Yuan, it was like she was looking at a dead person coming back to life. You, who are you? She stared at Fang Yuan, her gaze filled with vigilance and alertness. Fang Yuan smiled, saying warmly, I said, I am Chang Shan. Do you think I am a fool? I saw the entire process with my own eyes. You are an outsider. Don't use our Northern Plains accent to speak. The girl screamed, she could not take it anymore, her expression showing signs of insanity. Fang Yuan stared at her with a burning gaze, his face showing the vicissitudes of life. He sighed emotionally, little girl, don't worry, I have no ill intentions towards you. I am indeed Chang Shan. From the moment we met, I did not lie to you. Then how do you explain everything that just happened? The girl questioned. Fang Yuan raised his head, his gaze skipping over the girl, looking at the sky. His gaze was like smoke, he spoke in a reminiscing tone, little girl, have you heard of soul possession? Soul possession? Gu Yao was slightly stunned, her gaze flickered and her tone was uncertain, you're talking about soul possession? Fang Yuan spoke slowly, explaining with a gentle attitude, it seems you have heard of it. That's right, I was on the verge of death, and with no one to save me, I could only use this method and escape with my soul. Poison grassland is covered in dark clouds all year round, the sun cannot be seen, thus my soul can roam freely here. I roamed for over 20 years before finding the chance to possess an outsider goo master. When I used my goo worm to teleport here, I coincidentally met you. Is that so? Is that really the case? He. If I wanted to harm you, I would have killed you long ago, why would I let you follow me and even teach you how to fight? Although you say that, if I wanted to guard against you, I would not have let you see these things. You are a Northern Plains native, I, the great Chang Shan, would not be so despicable as to lay my hands on a little girl like you. Why did I only succeed after over 20 years? It is because I am not willing to slaughter Northern Plains people for my own selfishness. Little girl, you won't attack me because of an outsider, right? Fang Yuan's smile was like the sun, his tone filled with righteousness. Chapter 438. Guyao gradually let down her guard. Your words seem to make sense. If you are really Chang Shanyin, then you are the hero of Northern Plains. For an outsider, I will not make things difficult for you. But how will you prove your identity? Fang Yuan smiled lightly, his expression changing as he displayed the arrogance of a senior expert. Chang Shanyin will never change my name. I am me. Why do I need to prove myself? Little girl, if you want to leave now, I will not stop you. Fang Yuan's move of loosening the reins only to grasp them succeeded in shaking Guyao's suspicions, causing her to hesitate. Fang Yuan struck while the iron was hot. Little girl, you are right to be wary of others. But think about it, on the way here, how many chances did I have to kill you? Let's not talk about anything else, just flying in the air. As long as I let go, you would fall into the earth's spike rats and die without a doubt. Did I do that? Meeting each other is fate. Since you have the courage to escape, why don't you have the courage to face me? Guyao fell into silence. Fang Yuan observed her expression and knew that it was about time, thus he added, follow me, you are still young, it is not safe for you to be alone in the depths of poison grassland. Didn't you tell me before to find the snow willow? You want to get the snow wash goo from the snow willow and bring it back to the tribe to make a great contribution to offset this marriage? To speak the truth, this is not realistic. 1 or 2 snow wash goo cannot change the situation. Coincidentally, I also need snow wash goo. I will bring you to the snow willow and catch the snow wash goo, then I will follow you home and convince your father. What do you think? Really? Guyao's eyes brightened. I remember that father admires you the most, saying that you are a great hero. Ah, Ba will definitely listen to what you say. But what do you need snow wash goo for? Your mother has already passed away. Sigh. Fang Yuan's tone was bleak, he had a lonely expression, he first lowered his head before smiling bitterly. I naturally know, 20 years ago, my mother died from poison. I was not able to find the snow wash goo and return in time, it was unfilial of me. Do you know, over these 20 years, snow wash goo has become my obsession. I must catch one, then kneel on my mother's grave and repent to her. Saying so, Fang Yuan's tears flowed down. The young girl saw Fang Yuan's tears and completely believed Fang Yuan's lies. She felt heartache and consoled. Senior Chang Shanyin, this is not your fault. It's all because of that damned Hatu goo. Don't say any more. Let's go. Fang Yuan waved his hand and walked forward. Sorry, I said the wrong thing. I shouldn't have doubted you. Guyao felt a wave of guilt. She hurried to catch up with Fang Yuan and apologized behind him. Fang Yuan comforted the girl and succeeded in making Guyao feel even more guilty. The two continued to walk deeper into poison grassland. The purple poisonous fog was getting thicker, even poison-resistant wild beasts like poison-beard wolves rarely appeared. After 200 to 300 li, Fang Yuan and Guyao had no choice but to use their goo worms to detoxify the poison. After another 500 to 600 li, the purple poisonous fog was as thick as a wall, to the point where one could not even see their own fingers. Guyao's fog sparrow goo had already lost its effect in this situation. But Fang Yuan was prepared, he could still scout a radius of several thousand steps. Senior Chang Shanyin, let's go back. Or if we change our direction, we might meet the snow willow. If we go any deeper, I'm afraid. Guyao's face turned purple, she could not hold on any longer. But Fang Yuan shook his head and rejected this suggestion, insisting on moving forward. The young girl was not clear, but Fang Yuan understood, this snow willow needed to grow in a poisonous environment. And this poison grassland also had a great origin. In the deepest part of poison grassland, there was a blessed land where the rank 7 Gu immortal Zi Yan Ran lived, known as Lady Poison Scorpion. In her Zidu, blessed land, there were countless poisonous grasses and large swamps. There were large numbers of poisonous beasts living in it, and large numbers of poisonous goo were bred. When these poisonous beasts accumulated, their toxicity was so intense that even the blessed land could not endure it. Thus, every few years, the blessed land's entrance would open and release the dense poisonous gas inside. Most of this poisonous gas would turn into the purple poisonous fog in poison grassland. In some blessed lands, the lowest lifeforms would take this chance to escape. Thus, there were large numbers of poison-beard wolves in poison grassland. As time passed, the surroundings of the purple poison blessed land underwent earth-shattering changes. Dark clouds covered it all year round, no light could be seen. Purple fog lingered, tormenting lifeforms. Large numbers of poisonous grasses grew. On the slightly rotten soil, poison-beard wolves ran amok, causing this grassland to become a forbidden zone for lifeforms. It was called poison grassland by mortals with reverence. At the center of poison grassland was Zidu, blessed land. And Fang Yuan's current location was at the center of poison grassland. In the inner part of the grassland, poisonous fog gathered all year round, and large numbers of snow willows grew. Fang Yuan was clear in his heart, at this rate, as long as he persevered and moved forward, he would definitely see the snow willows. As he expected, after the two moved forward for a few hundred steps, Fang Yuan found a snow willow. The snow willow was 20 feet tall, its branches were luxuriant and its trunk was black like ink, but the thousands of willow branches hanging down were pure white like snow. In the dense purple fog, it appeared noble and holy. Fang Yuan brought Guyao to the snow willow, and the young girl immediately let out a happy shout. The two began to carefully examine the snow-white leaves on the willow branches. Soon, Guyao found one of the leaves had already turned into a goo. This was snow wash goo, a rank 4 goo worm that was priceless. Snow wash goo's detoxification ability was outstanding, and was widely acknowledged by Northern Plains goo masters. The two searched for a long time, and found 3 snow wash goo. Fang Yuan only took one, and gave the other 2 to Guyao, making the young girl secretly grateful. After keeping the snow wash goo, Fang Yuan took out a black bead from his bosom. The immortal goo fixed immortal travel was sealed inside, and at this moment, it was quietly emitting some immortal goo aura. This aura did not dissipate for a long time, and could be easily detected by goo immortals. It is time. Fang Yuan willed, and summoned a goo from his aperture. He immediately poured his primeval essence into it, and this goo turned into a crimson iron cabinet, firmly sealing the black bead. Immediately, the immortal goo's aura was isolated, and not a trace of it leaked out. This was a goo unique to Tai clan that Fang Yuan had obtained on Sancha Mountain, Iron Cabinet Goo. Fang Yuan carried the iron cabinet, and returned along the path they came from with Guyao. After walking for 200 to 300 li, Fang Yuan stopped, and took out the Earth Treasury Flower King Goo, placing the iron cabinet into the heart of the flower, and planting it deep underground. This goo was rank 5, and Fang Yuan had a hard time planting it. His primeval essence was not effective enough, and he could only absorb Yuan stone while slowly pouring in primeval essence. It took him more than 4 hours to complete the task. Fang Yuan had once opened the Flower Wine Monk's inheritance on Qing Mao Mountain. The latter was to bury the Earth Treasury Flower Goo, and hide the goo worm. The Earth Treasury Flower Goo was only a rank 2 goo, and as it advanced, it would become a rank 5 Earth Treasury Flower King. When the Earth Treasury Flower King was in full bloom, it was 10 times larger than the Earth Treasury Flower. The dark golden petals were soft like silk, and the heart of the flower was dark golden liquid. But when the Earth Treasury Flower King's flower bud was completely closed, its entire body was smaller than a baby's fist. It was completely hidden deep underground, and did not reveal any aura. Fang Yuan planted the Earth Treasury Flower King, and carefully destroyed all traces of it on the ground. At this point, he could be considered to have truly hidden the immortal goo fixed immortal travel. Fang Yuan's aperture could not store fixed immortal travel, so he could only use this method, and bury the immortal goo here, to use it in the future. In this vast grassland, who would think that an extremely precious immortal goo was hidden here? But there was a flaw: the immortal goo left behind a trail of aura. These auras did not fade, and could attract goo immortals. Thus, along the way, Fang Yuan sealed the immortal goo intermittently, to prevent goo immortals from searching for it. But the possibility of this is not very high. Unless the goo immortal has an investigative immortal goo, and this immortal goo can penetrate the ground, and search hundreds of li underground. If fixed immortal travel was really discovered by a goo immortal, and was taken away, Fang Yuan could only blame it on his bad luck. But even so, he would not bring fixed immortal travel with him. Compared to the immortal goo, he felt that his life was more precious. After burying the Earth Treasury Flower King goo, the two continued to walk back to that battlefield. Here, Fang Yuan changed his direction, and did not follow the original path back. Instead, he went in another direction, and used Ge Yao's return heart goo to guide him. The return journey was not smooth. During this period, Fang Yuan and Ge Yao were attacked by wolf groups several times. 3 or 4 times, they encountered 1,000 wolf group, and Fang Yuan could only carry Ge Yao and fly into the sky to avoid the disaster. When the two of them made it out of the poisonous grassland safely, the difficulties and obstacles they encountered were much smaller. In front of them, 100 poison-beard wolves pounced towards Fang Yuan and Ge Yao. Fang Yuan laughed heartily. He was not shocked, but happy instead. He flapped his wings and flew into the sky, looking down and pointing. Wolf enslavement goo, go. A rank 2 wolf enslavement goo turned into a lump of blue smoke, falling down and covering the 100-beast wolf king. The 100-beast wolf king struggled intensely, its soul emitting a strong resistance. But facing Fang Yuan's 100-man soul's strength, it was quickly defeated. Howl, howl. When Fang Yuan landed on the grassland, this 100-beast wolf king wagged its tail like a puppy, circling around Fang Yuan's feet. The wolf group it brought also did not move under its command, becoming Fang Yuan's lackeys. This was the second wolf group that Fang Yuan had subdued. Like this, Fang Yuan's forces became stronger, and the wolf group around him also became larger. The fleeing journey had unknowingly turned into a leisurely stroll in the park. When the wolf group around Fang Yuan expanded to over 2,000, and with 400 beast wolf kings, poison grassland was no longer scary. With the capital to settle down, Fang Yuan started to deal with the goo worms that came from southern border. Northern Plains people were xenophobic. With his original appearance, he would be ostracized and vigilant wherever he went, and it was not convenient for him to do anything. And these southern border goo worms were the biggest flaw that exposed his identity. The cautious Fang Yuan would not allow these flaws to exist. Chapter 439. The vast and boundless poison grassland became even darker at night. Wind whistled in their ears, wolves howled from somewhere, like the cries of ghosts. A bonfire was burning on the grassland. Ge Yao leaned against the bonfire, gradually getting rid of the cold on her body. There was a pot on the bonfire, inside was a fragrant meat soup. Ge Yao swallowed her saliva, feeling even hungrier. Finally, she swallowed her saliva, asking Fang Yuan, Senior Chang Shan Yin, is this pot of meat soup ready? Fang Yuan sat opposite the young girl, the two were separated by the bonfire. No rush, this meat has just been put into the pot, it needs to wait for the water to boil. After that, when the meat inside is completely soft, it will be interesting to eat. Fang Yuan took out the moving perspective cup goo as he said plainly. Oh, we still need to wait so long. Ge Yao pouted, her beautiful face under the illumination of the fire, together with the grassland's long robe and exquisite accessories, showed off her unique charm. But such a beautiful scene did not cause Fang Yuan's gaze to pause for even a moment. His gaze was focused on the moving perspective cup goo in his hand. Moving perspective cup goo was a rank 5 goo. But in northern plains, it was suppressed to rank 4. In terms of capacity, it was even weaker than some rank 4 goo. In terms of feeding, it was extremely expensive, occupying the peak of rank 5 goo. In terms of primeval essence expenditure, it was barely passable. But why did Fang Yuan not choose others, but chose it, spending so much effort and resources to refine it? It was because it originated from thieving heaven demon Venerable. Thieving heaven demon Venerable stole from heaven and earth. He was the wealthiest venerable in history. He spent his entire life's effort to find the legendary Space Cave. Space Cave was first recorded in the Legends of Renzu. Space Cave was a forbidden land on the same level as the River of Time. In the River of Time, there were large numbers of time path goo worms. And in the Space Cave, there were countless space path goo worms. It connected the 5 regions, hiding in unknown places. Opening the door from the Space Cave, one could instantly reach other places in the world. The door that led to it was also called the Space Door. The Space Door was everywhere. It could be in a small crack of a finger, or it could cover the vast sky. As long as there was space, there would be a door to the cave. But since ancient times, very few people have been able to find the Void Cave, let alone enter it. In the entire history of the human race, only one person had entered and exited. Thieving heaven demon Venerable researched the recipe of moving cup goo. He wanted to stuff this moving cup goo into the Space Cave, and bring out the wild goo worms inside the Space Cave. But he failed, and yet he succeeded. Over 400 years later, his blessed land was excavated by someone. Goo immortals from all over fought over it. The recipe of moving perspective goo was also widely spread. Its powerful effect quickly made it popular in the 5 regions. It was revered by countless goo immortals. Fang Yuan took out the golden dragon goo from his aperture. The rank 4 golden dragon goo had been suppressed to rank 3. After it flew out, it entered the moving perspective goo. Fang Yuan poured a large amount of primeval essence into moving perspective goo. The cup, which had a golden top and a silver bottom, immediately emitted a dazzling gold and silver light as it slowly floated in the air. Fang Yuan retracted his palm, then slowly pushed the cup in front of him. The moving perspective goo moved forward, before it started to vanish, first at the edge, then more than half, until it completely vanished into the air. Guyao stood up, her eyes wide open as she looked at this scene in amazement. At the same time, far away in central continent, in Hu Immortal blessed land. Little Hu Immortal sensed something. She teleported to a secret room in Dang Hun Palace. In the secret room, a moving perspective goo gave off a dazzling light as it floated in the air. As if it was being pulled by an invisible force, it slowly moved forward, before vanishing into the air. When the moving perspective goo completely vanished, Fang Yuan slowly spread his palm, and continued to pour his primeval essence. Suddenly, a speck of gold and silver light blossomed in the air above his palm. Next, Guyao saw the edge of a cup appear in the air, followed by half a cup, until the entire cup appeared in the air. Finally, the light dissipated, and the cup-shaped goo worm slowly landed in Fang Yuan's palm. Success! Fang Yuan muttered. Seeing this cup, he knew that this matter was not out of his control. Senior Chang Shan-yin, what are you doing? There is something wrong with this goo. Guyao walked a few steps towards Fang Yuan, extremely curious. What's wrong? Fang Yuan smiled lightly, taking out a yuan stone and quickly recovering his primeval essence. Guyao did not speak, she only stared at the moving perspective cup goo. Suddenly, her eyes brightened as she shouted, "This goo is different. It was gold on top and silver on the bottom, but now it is silver on top and gold on the bottom." Fang Yuan laughed heartily. That's right. There was not only one moving perspective goo, but 2. Of these 2 goo, one had a golden top and a silver bottom, while the other had a golden top and a silver top. Only when the 2 formed a set would it be a complete moving perspective goo. Before Fang Yuan left, he brought one with him and placed the other in Hu Immortal blessed land. When he injected his primeval essence, the two moving perspective Gu entered the space cave at the same time, and completed the exchange in the space cave. The one in the blessed land came to Fang Yuan's side. As for Fang Yuan's cup with the golden dragon Gu, it returned to Hu immortal blessed land. Back then, thieving heaven demon Venerable wanted to use moving perspective Gu to steal the Gu worms in the space cave. He failed, he did not achieve his goal. But moving perspective Gu, on a different level, was a huge success. Using the space cave that was everywhere, a pair of moving perspective Gu could complete the exchange in the space cave, forming the transportation of resources. And more importantly, it was only rank 5, it was not the only immortal Gu. In Fang Yuan's previous life, during the 5 regions chaotic war, moving perspective Gu became a must-have Gu worm for all forces. Even Gu immortals were competing to use it. Fang Yuan took out a letter from this moving perspective Gu. The letter was naturally written by little Hu immortal, it described the current situation in the blessed land. Fang Yuan had only spent 5 to 6 days in poison grassland, but a month had passed in Hu immortal blessed land. Gu Yao's thoughts gradually drifted. She thought, what kind of person was Fang Yuan? The shock when they first met, the warmth when he smiled, the wisdom when he gave her pointers, the unparalleled bravery in battle, and the coldness when he peeled off her skin. These scenes flashed in the young girl's mind, the impression was so deep that it was carved into the depths of her heart. What about his past? Gu Yao could not help but think. Chang Shan Yin's past had already become a legend of a hero, widely spread in northern plains. Countless people respected him, loved him, and thought well of him. When he was young, he was the future hope of Chang tribe. He became famous very early on, his top-notch wolf manipulation skills made people look at him in a different light. Most importantly, he was upright, fair, generous, and friendly, he never bullied the weak, was filial to his parents, and helped his tribesmen in trouble. At the same time, he had a strong sense of brotherhood, risking his life many times to protect his homeland, and made great contributions to Chang tribe. He married a beautiful wife, but faced the betrayal of his childhood friend. Fate was merciless, causing this man to lose his mother, his sworn brother, his beautiful wife, and even almost lost his life. But he survived in the end. Relying on his own hard work, he struggled out of the abyss of death, creating an unimaginable miracle. This man is carrying endless pain on his shoulders, and hidden in the dark are countless scars. Gu Yao thought of this and had an impulse to hug Fang Yuan, using her warmth to comfort this injured lone wolf, the former wolf king. The bonfire flickered, the wood crackled. Gu Yao's gaze on Fang Yuan's face became more and more affectionate, gradually becoming unable to extricate herself. In the warm light of the fire, there was a kind of emotion brewing and growing in the young girl's heart. When Fang Yuan finished this round of exchanging cups and started to take out primeval stones to absorb the primeval essence, Gu Yao inwardly made the most important decision in her life. She suddenly stood up, shouting at Fang Yuan, "Fang Yuan! Be my husband!" Her voice traveled through the vast grassland in the deep night, going far away. "What did you say?" Fang Yuan frowned. Even with his 500 years of experience, he did not expect the young girl to suddenly change her mind. After reacting, he smiled, "Don't mess around, little girl, I am your senior. According to age, I am 20 years older than you, my son is a good match for you." Looking at her leaving figure, the smile on Fang Yuan's face quickly disappeared, and his gaze turned cold. He didn't expect that Gu Yao would be so moved by him. It was simply a matter of deep love. However, love was something that couldn't be reasoned with and couldn't be predicted with common sense. When Gu Yue climbed Chengbai Mountain in the desolate Yin, he was pursued by the Stone Man. According to U003CU003, the Legends of Renzu 003EU003E, Renzu failed to save his eldest son, verdant great son, and at the final juncture of his revival, he failed and was swept into Luopa Valley by reverse flow river. His second daughter, Guyue Desolate Een, knew of this news and tried to save her father. However, to enter the door of life and death, one needed the help of Courage Gu and Faith Gu. But these Gu worms were with her father, Renzu. Guyue Desolate Een couldn't enter the door of life and death, but she wanted to save Renzu. She couldn't think of a method, so she could only ask Cognition Gu. Cognition Gu told her two methods. The first method was to enter the space cave and open the space door, directly arriving at Renzu's side. Then, through the space cave, she could escape the door of life and death. But this method could only save Renzu's soul, it couldn't revive him. The second method was to climb to the peak of Qingbai Mountain and find that one and only Success Gu. As long as she made a wish to Success Gu, Guyue Desolate Een would be able to save Renzu and revive him. Guyue Desolate Een knew of the existence of the space cave long ago, but she couldn't find a way to enter it. Moreover, she wanted to revive her father, so she came to Qingbai Mountain. Qingbai Mountain was not tall, it was just a small mound. It was very special, it was made up of billions of pebbles. These pebbles were actually Failure Gu. There was still one and only Success Gu, it was at the peak of Qingbai Mountain. Guyue Desolate Een came to the foot of the mountain and started to climb Qingbai Mountain. Her movement woke up the nearby Love Gu that was sleeping. Love Gu was disturbed from its beautiful dream, it was furious and wanted to take revenge on Guyue Desolate Een. It used its unique power to enlighten a rock. The rock gained life because of love, turning into a rockman. The rockman was tall and mighty, his body was covered in gold, silver, copper, and iron, it was very beautiful and dazzling. After the rockman was born, the first thing he saw was Guyue Desolate Een. He was shocked at her heavenly immortal appearance and was immediately subdued by her beauty. He followed Guyue Desolate Een all the way, looking at her graceful back, his heart was filled with love. Finally, he could not hold back anymore, he ran in front of Guyue Desolate Een and stopped her, shouting loudly, "Beautiful lady, your appearance is so dazzling, your figure is so elegant, your temperament is so noble. The moment I saw you, I was subdued by you. You are my love, please be merciful and accept my love for you." The rockman had a majestic body, completely blocking Guyue Desolate Yin's path. Guyue Desolate Een frowned slightly, she sized up the rockman in front of her, saying coldly, "Love, what is that? You want me to accept your love, but where is it?" The rockman immediately took the iron pieces from his body and handed them to Guyue Desolate Een with both hands, saying, "Beautiful lady, these are my unyielding spirit. I am giving them to you, this is my love for you." Guyue Desolate Een shook her head in disappointment, she was not interested in these iron pieces at all. The rockman was stunned, he also took off the copper pieces on his body and piled them on top of the iron pieces. "Beautiful lady, these are my stubbornness. I am giving them to you because this is my love for you." Guyue Desolate Een was impatient, "Please move aside, I am not interested in your love, I still need to save my father." The rockman saw that the goddess in his heart was not moved, he could not help but panic. He knelt on the ground and made up his mind, he also took off the silver pieces on his body and piled them on top of the copper pieces. "Kind lady, these are my dignity. I am giving them to you, this should be enough to express my love for you, right?" Guyue Desolate Een frowned even more, "Listen, I don't have time to waste with you." The rockman became even more anxious, he also took off the gold pieces on his body and piled them on top of the silver pieces. "Lovely lady, these are my confidence. I am giving them to you because they represent my love for you." Guyue Desolate Een sighed deeply and said, "Rockman, in order to express your love, you are no longer unyielding, put down your stubbornness, threw away your dignity, and even gave up your self-confidence. But what I see is an extremely ugly rockman. Get up, I will not accept your love for me, I still have more important things to do. It turned out that the rockman had lost his gold, silver, copper, and iron decorations, he had become gray and even somewhat comical, he was no longer as gorgeous and mighty as before. The rockman began to cry, he begged Guyue Desolate Een, then how can I obtain your love? Guyue Desolate Een was anxious, but the rockman refused to get up no matter what. She changed her mind and smiled, Rockman, since you love me so much, then show me your true heart. The rockman did not hesitate to open his chest, offering his scarlet red heart to Guyue Desolate Een. Guyue Desolate Een received the heart and immediately kept it. The stone man hurriedly called out, can I get your love now? Guyue Desolate Een shook her head, even if you give your true heart, you will not be able to exchange for love. Chang Shan Een, look at what this is. Guyao was covered in blood and wounds, she was panting heavily, she held the head of the Thousand Wolf King in her hand as she stood in front of Fang Yuan. After losing the Wolf King, the invading wolf pack was fleeing in panic. Fang Yuan slowly stood up, he nodded and admitted, you killed the Thousand Wolf King. Guyao performed exceptionally, she was heavily injured, her face was covered in blood, her primeval essence was also depleted. She stared at Fang Yuan with a burning gaze, Chang Shan Een, you are a hero, you won't go back on your words, right? Of course not. Your love has moved me. From today onwards, you are my wife. Fang Yuan looked at Guyao with deep emotions, he then walked closer step by step, he stretched out his arms and hugged the young girl. The young girl let go of the Wolf King's head and threw it on the ground, she passionately hugged Fang Yuan back. Her breathing was rapid, her heart was beating rapidly, she was actually more nervous and excited than when she was fighting the Wolf King to the death. In Fang Yuan's warm embrace, her heart was filled with happiness, her pair of beautiful eyes turned red. Suddenly, there was a soft sound. The young girl's expression froze, she struggled to break free from Fang Yuan's embrace, she lowered her head and looked at her chest. There was a sharp dagger stuck there. A fatal blow. Whether it was to the body or the soul. Why? Guyao looked at Fang Yuan in disbelief, her delicate body swayed, her eyes filled with anger, hatred, shock and doubt. Fang Yuan looked at the young girl and spoke expressionlessly. He said the story in The Legends of Renzu, the rockman saw that desolate Guyue had kept his true heart and could not help but feel anxious. He said, heartless girl, your coldness makes me despair. Since I can't exchange for your love, then please return my sincerity to me. Without it, I will die. But Guyue did not return it to him, she watched as he slowly died. Why? I love you so much, why do you want to kill me? Before the rockman died, he shouted in confusion. Desolate Guyue looked at him pitifully, her voice was still calm, oh rockman, I did not want to kill you. But you blocked my path to success. Path to success. Guyao heard this reply and could not hold on anymore, collapsing on the ground. The dense aura of death caused her body to rapidly turn cold. The young girl raised her head, revealing a swan-like graceful neck, she looked at the dark night sky and laughed miserably. She only laughed 3 times, but her face was filled with tears. Then she looked at Fang Yuan, her gaze was still as affectionate as before, Chang Shan Een. I do not know how I blocked your path to success. But even if you kill me, I will not hate you. Maybe you want to take revenge? I will leave all my goo worms to you, I hope they can help you in your path to success. Cough cough cough. The young girl coughed out blood. She laughed miserably, pleading to Fang Yuan, I am going to die. Before I die, I have a small request. I hope you can hug me. I miss your warm embrace. But Fang Yuan did not move, he looked at the young girl coldly. He looked at the young girl, seeing her expression harden bit by bit, her life slipping away bit by bit. In the end, the flower-like young girl turned into an ice-cold corpse. Fang Yuan looked at Guyao's face and fell into a long silence. Chapter 441. Even though it was daytime, the poison grassland was gloomy. Thick dark clouds blocked the light of the sun. Behind the low mound, a humpback wolf was quietly lurking. The hump wolf was huge, comparable to a warhorse. Its entire body was covered in black and long wolf fur, and on its back were two thin humps. A pair of wolf eyes shone with a faint light in the darkness. It laid on the mound, motionless, like a stone statue. Even its breathing was extremely slow. At first glance, it looked like a piece of black metal. Suddenly, the hump wolf's long and slender ears trembled. Under its gaze, a gray rabbit came out of a cave at the foot of the mound, and started to look for food. Even though there were lush weeds around the cave, the gray rabbit did not care, and rushed out to look for grass in the distance. Rabbits do not eat the grass around their burrows. If they did, the cave they lived in would be exposed. When the hump wolf saw the gray rabbit leave, its eyelids drooped even more, covering a large part of its eyes, leaving only a slit. The gray rabbit ate the grass, while its ears perked up. Once there was any movement, it would agilely raise its head and look around, extremely alert. The hump wolf was very patient. The gray rabbit was happily eating, but it did not move, as if it was dead. The gray rabbit continued to eat, immersed in the delicious food. When it was full, it started to walk back. At this moment, the hump wolf suddenly moved. It jumped out from the mound, and attacked the gray rabbit. The gray rabbit's path back was blocked by the hump wolf. In its shock, it could only turn and run. Its speed was extremely fast. When it ran, it was as if it had turned into a gray bolt of lightning, moving through the grass. It actually surpassed the hump wolf's speed, and quickly created a distance between them. But after running for a while, it slowed down. The gray rabbit's explosive power was strong, but its endurance was not as good as the hump wolf's. The two of them chased each other on the poison grassland, life and death at the speed of light. The most common scene in the grassland, the game of death between the predator and the prey. The hump wolf gradually got closer. Seeing that the gray rabbit had already landed in front of it, the hump wolf leapt out and pounced. But at this moment, the rabbit suddenly sped up, its entire body scurrying to the side. He immediately dodged the fatal attack and pulled away from the hump wolf. This gray rabbit was very cunning. The exhaustion just now was just a disguise, and it still had some energy left. The hump wolf missed its target and continued its pursuit. Soon, the distance between the two gradually shortened. The hump wolf pounced again, but it still missed. After 3 or 4 times, the rabbit was exhausted and was finally killed by the hump wolf. The hump wolf panted heavily and lay on the ground for a long time before slowly standing up. In this cruel competition, the predators didn't have unlimited glory. Instead, there were many hardships and hardships. Hump wolf didn't enjoy the gray rabbit that it had painstakingly caught. Instead, it held it in its mouth and returned to its lair. In the den, there was a female hump wolf and a few newborn wolf pups that needed to be fed. At that time, when the hump wolf rushed back to its lair, it only saw bloodstains and cold corpses. Howl! It threw down the gray rabbit's corpse and roared angrily. The fur on its neck stood up, and its eyes turned red with hatred. A large group of poison-beard wolves surrounded it from all directions. On a hill far away, Fang Yuan crossed his arms, looking down at the battlefield from a high vantage point. He, a male wolf came after all. He smiled lightly, feeling that his luck had turned for the better. Hump wolf was an outstanding mount in northern plains. Although Fang Yuan had Chang Shan Yin's rank 4 wolf sprint goo, it expended a lot of primeval essence. It was much faster and more convenient to ride the hump wolf. When Fang Yuan accidentally found this wolf den, he killed all the weak female wolves and their pups, and obtained a rank 2 wolf enslavement goo. He was not in a hurry to leave, but hid the poison-beard wolf and waited for the male wolf to return. The battle between the hump wolf and the poison-beard wolf group had reached its climax the moment it started. The hump wolf's body was huge, and its anger made it even more ferocious when it fought. It waved its claws, and ordinary poison-beard wolves were not its match. But under Fang Yuan's command, the poison-beard wolves were extremely crafty. They did not fight head-on, but cooperated with each other, advancing and retreating, wearing down the hump wolf's battle strength. After an hour, the hump wolf was gasping for breath. It was no longer as valiant as before. Beside it, there were over 60 poison-beard wolf corpses. These were its glorious battle achievements. Of course, if Fang Yuan wanted to kill it, with Fang Yuan's enslavement path attainment, he would only need to pay the price of 30 poison-beard wolves. But Fang Yuan wanted to capture it alive, thus he could not help but feel his hands and feet being tied in battle. The time is about right. Fang Yuan looked at the hump wolf's trembling limbs in the wind as he slowly walked down the hill, getting closer carefully. Right now, most of his goo worms had been moved to Hu Immortal Blessed Land through moving perspective cup goo. When he was 200 steps away from the hump wolf, Fang Yuan flicked his finger, activating the rank 2 wolf enslavement goo. Wolf enslavement goo exploded, turning into a light smoke that covered the hump wolf. The hump wolf quickly retreated, but the light smoke followed it closely. The hump wolf howled, charging towards Fang Yuan. But it met with the obstruction of the poison-beard wolves. After a few breaths of time, the light smoke completely fused into its body. The hump wolf laid on the ground weakly. Its body was covered in bleeding wounds. Its bloodshot eyes no longer looked at Fang Yuan with hatred, but showed a sense of submission. 100-man's soul is indeed useful. If I did not use guts goo, I would need to expend some effort to enslave this hump wolf. Fang Yuan sighed inwardly, before activating the wolf smoke goo in his aperture. Wolf smoke goo flew out, turning into thick smoke that enveloped the hump wolf and most of the injured poison-beard wolves. After a while, the smoke dispersed. The hump wolf's wounds were completely healed. It even grew new fur. The injured poison-beard wolves also recovered their vitality. However, even though they were uninjured, their battle strength was not at their peak. What affected the beast group's battle strength was not just their injuries, but also their hunger. The wolf group had to display their greatest battle strength. They could not be too hungry, or they would become weak. The so-called beauty, in the end, was just a handful of dirt. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Beautiful young girls were like fresh flowers in this world. They would either be stepped on by the roadside, or wither away as time passed, becoming ugly fertilizer to nourish the soil. Without eternal life, even the most beautiful things are just an illusion. The value of their existence is just for a moment of beauty. The more Fang Yuan experienced, the more he realized the cruelty of the world. Without eternal life, even the most valuable things would be worthless. The so-called immortal reputation, infamy, is just the shallow thoughts of those grandchildren. The so-called immortal spirit is just a tool used by the younger generation to prove themselves. Can people really only prove each other? On earth, so be it. In this world, even if there is an extremely faint possibility, I will still pursue it. Even if I die on the path of pursuing, and die 1,000 times uglier than Gu Yao, I will not regret it. Fang Yuan had already made up his mind to die. However, only by dedicating his entire life's energy to his pursuit could he die without the slightest bit of regret. Who could understand the heart of a transmigrator like Fang Yuan? The path he walked was destined to be endless darkness, destined to be incomparably lonely. The direction of his pilgrimage was only the light in his heart, eternal life, a tiny possibility that did not exist. In this world, no one could understand him. And him. Chapter 442. After the wolf group finished eating, Fang Yuan got on the hump wolf's back and continued his journey. These days, I have been following Gu Yao's directions. I am almost at the edge of poison grassland. If I go any further, I will see signs of human activity. Hump wolves were natural mounts, the two humps formed a comfortable saddle. Fang Yuan sat between the two humps, inspecting his aperture as he traveled. There were only about 10 goo worms left in his aperture. Other than spring-autumn cicada and moving perspective cup goo, there were only northern plains goo worms. The goo worms that came from southern border and central continent were all sent back to Hu immortal blessed land by Fang Yuan. Not even a single primordial stone was left behind. Southern borders Yuan stone could be used in northern plains, but it was different from northern plains Yuan stone. Guyao did not notice it because she was too young and naive. In fact, any goo master with a bit of experience would be able to sense it. It is a pity that moving perspective cup goo is rank 5, but it is suppressed to rank 4 in northern plains, and can only store rank 4 goo. If I can use it to send fixed immortal travel to the blessed land, that would be perfect. Sigh, I hope my arrangements are effective. If fixed immortal travel goo was taken away by other goo immortals, it would be a huge loss to Fang Yuan. But Fang Yuan had no other choice, he had already done his best to the best of his abilities. The aura of the immortal goo lasts for about a month. If there are no problems during this period, then fixed immortal travel goo will be safe. Next, I will meet northern plains goo masters. I cannot be careless, it is best to subdue 1,000 wolf king during this period of time. I can increase the number of wolves to over 2,000. Sometimes, humans were scarier than wild beasts. A wolf group of over 2,000 could intimidate most small fries. Right now, I only have 1 rank 3 wolf enslavement goo and 1 rank 2 wolf enslavement goo, I need to use them carefully. From now on, I will use Chang Shan Yin's identity to travel in northern plains, and mainly enslavement wolves. This way, there is another obstacle, I do not have the recipes of rank 3 and 4 wolf enslavement goo. But beast enslavement goo were all expendable goo, after it explodes into smoke, whether it succeeds or fails, it would dissipate. Rank 3 wolf enslavement goo could enslave 1,000 wolf king. Rank 4 wolf enslavement goo could enslave myriad wolf kings or mutated beasts. Without these 2 goo recipes, Fang Yuan would not have large numbers of wolf enslavement goo. Without these wolf enslavement goo, Fang Yuan's wolf group would only be a few thousand at most, it would not be a big deal. With the hump wolf as a means of transportation, the speed of the next formation was at least 3 times faster. Fang Yuan traveled day and night. The dark clouds above his head gradually thinned. 2 days later, he finally arrived at the edge of the poison grassland. In the sky, the dark clouds scattered into pieces. Rays of sunlight seeped through the gaps in the dark clouds, forming beams of light that sprinkled down. Injustice. The green grass was flourishing. Blue, purple, and yellow wildflowers bloomed one after another. The low-lying hills seemed to be rendered in pure green, without any lines to outline them. There was also a small river beside the hill. Under the illumination of the sun, it flowed slowly and sparkled like a silver necklace. I'm finally going out. Fang Yuan sighed, riding on the hump wolf's back. Poison-beard wolves surrounded him as he walked into the sunlight. The poison-beard wolves were in an uproar. They were suitable for hunting in dark environments, but under the sunlight, their battle strength was greatly affected. Fang Yuan did not mind, these poison-beard wolves were just a transition, they would be eliminated sooner or later. Fang Yuan looked back, the poison grassland was still covered in dark clouds, the light was dim and the wind was chilly. On the poison grassland, there were purple-black poisonous grasses growing in strange shapes. Compared to the grassland where the sunlight shone, it was a stark contrast, as if they were 2 different worlds. The eastern part of Hu immortal blessed land is also covered in thick clouds. If I do not deal with it in time, that area might develop towards the direction of the poison grassland. Poison grassland. I will return. Fang Yuan muttered, as he spoke, his body suddenly felt light. Ever since he entered northern plains, he had felt uneasy, as if there was a formless restriction shrouding his body. Now that this restriction had been reduced by a portion, Fang Yuan immediately felt that he was closer to this vast world. His aura also rose, from rank 3 peak stage to rank 4 initial stage. Fang Yuan could not help but laugh heartily at his joyous mood. His body was gradually adapting to northern plains, his cultivation was recovering, this was a great help to his future plans. Northern plains, I am coming. Fang Yuan shouted, his legs squeezing the wolf's abdomen. The hump wolf started to run, leading the poison-beard wolves into the distance. Kill! Battle cries reverberated on the hill, dozens of Gu masters and over 1,000 wind wolves were engaged in an intense battle. The battle had already been going on for 15 minutes. These damned wind wolves! Leader Gu Guang cursed, his expression was malevolent as he waved his saber, beheading a wind wolf in front of him. But after chopping down, his saber broke into two. The half-blade in Gu Guang's hand had long since curled up. Howl! A wind wolf suddenly jumped, pouncing towards Gu Guang. Young tribe leader, be careful. Spiral water arrow. The Gu master behind Gu Guang shouted anxiously. Hearing this shout, Gu Guang, who had developed a tacit understanding from years of battle, didn't even think before he suddenly bent down. It looked like he was offering his head to the wolf's mouth. The wind wolf that was jumping in the air opened its mouth, revealing its sharp teeth. Just as it was about to bite Gu Guang's head, a blue water arrow with a strong spiral force shot towards Gu Guang's back. Next, this spiral water arrow fiercely shot into the wind wolf's mouth, killing it instantly. Using this chance, Gu Guang squeezed the wolf's abdomen, urging the hump wolf to retreat, retreating into everyone's defensive circle. Saber Gu. He clasped his hands together, squeezing out the last trace of primeval essence from his aperture, before injecting it into the saber imprint on his palm. Swoosh! Gu Guang swung his right hand fiercely, and a brand new saber formed in an instant, which he held tightly in his hand. Die! He roared, his voice already hoarse like iron. The new saber was extremely sharp, drawing a cold light in the air, directly cutting a wind wolf into two. However, this small victory could hardly have a positive impact on the overall declining situation. Damn it, I don't have enough primeval essence. There are too many wind wolves, at least 3,000 of them. Young tribe leader, we are completely surrounded. There is no hope in fighting to the death, why don't we break through towards the east, the defense there is the weakest. The surrounding Gu masters shouted one after another. Gu Guang's tiger eyes shone with divine light as he sized up the area, resolutely rejecting, no, there is a puddle in the east. The defense seems weak, but it is actually a facade created by the Wind Wolf King. Once we enter, we will be walking into its trap. Then what should we do? Everyone asked. Gu Guang gritted his teeth, making up his mind, turn around, we will go back and break through towards the west. But we still haven't found Lady Guyao. If we return like this, how will we report to Lord Tribe Leader? Gu Guang snorted, although Guyao is my sister, for her own selfishness, she disregarded the entire Gu tribe situation and ran away from the marriage. For a mere girl, she is sacrificing us good men, it is not worth it. Send the order, we will break through. Let those dirty slaves stay behind to guard the rear. It is time for them to sacrifice their lives for master. Yes. Everyone quickly conveyed the order. Northern Plains tribes fought all year round. Some of the defeated Gu masters became slaves. Slaves had low status, and when necessary, they would be mercilessly discarded as cannon fodder. Soon, the Gu masters split into two groups. A pair of slaves stayed on the slope, using their lives to obstruct the enemy. The other group, under Gu Guang's lead, started to break through towards the west. Kill, kill, kill. Gu Guang charged at the front line, riding a hump wolf as he waved his saber, wild and brave. Protect young master. The Gu masters behind him were all tall and sturdy Northern Plains men, they rode hump wolves and closely gathered around Gu Guang. Swoosh! Suddenly, a huge three-leafed wind blade shot over. Young master! A loyal Gu master shouted in warning, being the first to react. He did not have a trace of primeval essence in his aperture, so he rode the hump wolf to the front, using his body to block the wind blade. Without any surprise, he was cut into two by the wind blade, dying instantly. The wind blade weakened to 2 leaves, but still slashed towards Gu Guang. Gu Guang reacted, quickly raising his saber to block. Bam! The wind blade exploded, the saber shattered, and Gu Guang vomited a mouthful of blood, falling down from the hump wolf's back. Young tribe leader. The Gu masters behind him quickly protected him, but this way, they failed to break through the encirclement. An endless stream of wind wolves surrounded them from both sides, once again firmly surrounding them. The wind wolf group quietly opened up a path, and the vigorous and beautiful wind wolf king slowly walked along this path, arriving in front of everyone. Thousand Beast King. Its body was huge, like a warhorse. Its body was covered in neat dark green wolf fur, and its eyes were like emeralds. As it slowly walked, it actually gave Gu Guang and the others a feeling of elegance and nobility. At this time, the slave Gu masters guarding the top of the hill had already been exterminated. Large groups of wind wolves attacked from behind. The Gu masters had already exhausted their primeval essence, and the wind wolf king's arrival caused a commotion. Someone wanted to drag Gu Guang back, but Gu Guang swung his arm and struggled to stand up, shouting, "What are you afraid of? Even without primeval essence, I still have my fists and teeth. Warriors, don't let these beasts look down on you. Use our blood to prove that we are brave Gu tribesmen." Everyone was encouraged by him, and their morale rose, as they all had the will to die. The Wind Wolf King slowed down, and suddenly turned its head, looking towards the east side of the battlefield. What kind of exquisite wolf enslavement skill is this? Such a casualty ratio made Gu tribe's Gu master's eyes pop out. Unimaginable. This is the attainment of a beast enslavement master. Who is this person? Many people looked at Fang Yuan as if they were looking at a monster. I've never heard of such a hidden expert in the vicinity. Everyone was naturally surprised and overjoyed. Fang Yuan's strength made the Wind Wolf group focus their attention on the poison-beard wolves. They only surrounded Gu tribe's Gu masters and did not attack, giving these people precious time to breathe. The Wind Wolf King has moved. Gu Guang suddenly spoke, his words made everyone nervous again. The Wind Wolf King had extraordinary intelligence, it howled and quickly gathered a large number of elites. Soon, with the Wind Wolf King as the shoulder, this group of elites shot into the formation like an arrow, charging towards the center and attacking Fang Yuan. Enslavement Path Gu masters were most afraid of beheading the leader tactic, and this Wind Wolf King was a thousand-beast king. Now that it was charging with the elites of the wolf group, it was simply unstoppable. Fang Yuan's subordinates, however, only had a few hundred beast king poisoned beard wolf kings. But Fang Yuan was not shocked, instead he was happy, smiling lightly. As expected, they could not hold it in anymore. The Wind Wolf King's intelligence far surpassed other wolves, but it was still a wild beast, it could not compare to humans. Against other wolf groups, Fang Yuan had to charge himself. But against the Wind Wolf King, Fang Yuan created such a formation, luring the Wind Wolf King to charge. Swoosh! The charging Wind Wolf King suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a 3-leaf wind blade. The wind blade flew up, breaking through the wolf group and carving out a path of blood, slashing towards Fang Yuan. Careful! A Gu master on the mound could not help but shout, the others' hearts were in their throats. Fang Yuan did not move, only when the wind blade was about to reach him did he maneuver the hump wolf to dodge, easily dodging it. The green wind blade brushed past his body. Expert! Fang Yuan's fearlessness in the face of danger and his calm demeanor made the Gu masters think of this term. Fang Yuan willed. Several poison-beard wolf kings were already prepared. They ran over and formed a battle formation, blocking the Wind Wolf King. The Wind Wolf King was fast, had strong attacks and sturdy defense. It was stronger than any of the poison-beard wolf kings. But no matter how it charged, it could not break through this obstacle. Fang Yuan used his exquisite command to win against the strong, restraining the Wind Wolf King until it could not do anything but howl in anger. Terrifying. The mighty Wind Wolf King has been completely toyed with by this man. This person's beast enslavement skill can match Jiang Baoya, Yang Ping and Ma Zun. Another top-tier enslavement path expert has appeared in Northern Plains. If the wolves under his command were several times stronger, he could even fight against a small and medium-sized tribe by himself. Who is this person? He looks quite old. Gu Guang looked at Fang Yuan manipulating the Wind Wolf King, feeling dazzled and awe. Everyone shook their heads, making guesses. This gave Fang Yuan another layer of mystery. It's about time. Fang Yuan muttered. He had the entire battle situation in his hands. Seeing that the Wind Wolf King wanted to escape, he knew it had lost its fighting spirit. Rank 3 Wolf Enslavement Gu, go. Fang Yuan willed. His only rank 3 wolf enslavement Gu flew out, turning into a light smoke that enveloped the Wind Wolf King. The Wind Wolf King howled. Its soul struggled and actually held on to the light smoke, not submitting to Fang Yuan's pressure. Humph! Fang Yuan's eyes shined with a sharp light. He had 100-man soul. He was not afraid of this contest of souls. As expected, the Wind Wolf King resisted for a while, losing and submitting to Fang Yuan. This person's soul is so strong, he might have 100-man soul. Someone exclaimed. With such enslavement path attainment, it is not strange for him to have 100-man soul. Someone retorted, like Jiang Baoya, Yang Ping, Ma Zun, they all have 1,000-man soul. After successfully planting the wolf enslavement Gu, Fang Yuan obtained his first 1,000-wolf king. The Wind Wolf King howled. The wolf group immediately stopped moving. The noisy battlefield suddenly quietened down. The remaining 1,000 or so wind wolves changed their allegiance and joined Fang Yuan's side. This way, Fang Yuan's wolf group doubled in size, reaching over 2,400. My luck is good this time. If not for these Gu masters restraining me, I would have to pay an even greater price to subdue this Wind Wolf King. Fang Yuan rode the hump wolf, slowly walking towards the hill. Gu Guang's group held their breaths. This person in front of them would decide their life and death. As Fang Yuan got closer, Gu Guang stepped out of the crowd and covered his chest with his right hand, bowing deeply to Fang Yuan, saying loudly, "Respected expert, I admire and fear your strength. Right now, our lives are in your hands. Whether we live or die, we will listen to you, we have no objections." He, young warrior, I have seen your battle earlier. You are as valiant as a stallion. It reminds me of myself when I was young. Fang Yuan sat on the wolf's back, laughing heartily and looking at everyone warmly. You are the first batch of people I saw after leaving Poison Grassland. I am very happy to be able to return to this land. Don't worry, I, Chang Shanyin, am not a ruthless person. Hearing Fang Yuan's words, the Gu masters laughed, completely relaxing. Their primeval essence was lacking. If Fang Yuan wanted to kill them, they would not be able to retaliate. Sometimes, humans were more dangerous than wolves. If they met a demonic Gu master, their outcome might be even more miserable. Right now, everyone was rejoicing. They felt that they had met a righteous expert. Benefactor Chang Shanyin, I am Gu tribe's young tribe leader. You saved my life. Please give me a chance to be grateful. Let me invite you to our tent as a guest. I will do my best to entertain you. Gu Guang invited sincerely. Of course, gratitude was a part of it. The other part was because of Fang Yuan's strength. The chance to make friends with such an expert was not only good for Gu Guang, but also for the entire tribe. Gu tribe? Fang Yuan pondered for a while. All right, I have used up all my Yuan stone. I also need to replenish my Gu worms. I need to rest for a while. He expressed his needs in his words, hinting at Gu Guang. Chapter 444. Fang Yuan followed Gu Guang's group towards the west. They had hump wolves and their speed was not slow. Along the way, the group's atmosphere was harmonious. On one hand, Fang Yuan wanted to get close to them, he had some ulterior motives. On the other hand, Gu Guang wanted to befriend them, he had respect in his heart. Northern Plains people were brave and fierce, but they were straightforward and forthright. If you did not have strength, Northern Plains people would look down on you, it would be hard to befriend you. But if your fists were strong and hard, Northern Plains people would respect you. When you were angry with them, their passion would let you understand what was called regret not having met earlier. In just 2 days, Fang Yuan and Gu Guang were on good terms. Fang Yuan wanted to use Gu tribe as a springboard to truly integrate into Northern Plains. After all, Chang Shan-yin had disappeared for over 20 years, he had to let the people accept his sudden return. At the same time, he lacked Yuan stone and defensive Gu, he needed to trade for them. Fang Yuan did not find any defensive Gu worms on Chang Shan-yin's corpse. It should have been destroyed in the battle with Hatu Gu. Gu Guang was also filled with gratitude, reverence and curiosity towards Fang Yuan. Gratitude because Fang Yuan saved his life. Reverence because along the way, Fang Yuan controlled the wolf group and displayed top-notch attainment. Moreover, his casual pointers were able to break through Gu Guang's cultivation bottleneck, he had the demeanor of a senior and the bearing of an expert. Curiosity because Fang Yuan's words touched on the past, his tone was filled with emotions, and his gaze was filled with the vicissitudes of life, he was evidently an expert with a story. Gu Guang naturally had the desire to investigate, but he did not dare to ask. 5 days later, the group returned to Gu tribe's camp. The camp was huge, there was a row of thick mud walls erected on the periphery. The mud walls were 6 feet tall, it was lush and green, dark green vines intertwined and spread, and under the large leaves were clusters of purple grape-like fruits. These were not fruits, but would path divine confusion Gu. When attacked by a group of beasts, these purple grapes would explode into liquid. When the liquid fell on the bodies of the beasts, they would lose consciousness and their bodies would sway. They wouldn't even be able to stand properly, let alone attack and fight. Behind the earthen wall was a towering watchtower. There were usually 3 Gu masters stationed on the tower, 1 defensive Gu master and 2 investigative Gu masters taking turns to keep watch. The camp's gate opened and many Gu masters came out to welcome them. The young clan head is back. The young clan head is back. Young clan head just left a few days ago, and he's already back. I heard they encountered a wind wolf pack and almost lost their lives, luckily they had enslavement path experts to help them. Is that the middle-aged man? All these wolves were following him. Amazing. I wonder which tribe's expert is he from? Before Fang Yuan and the rest even got close to the camp, they met a patrolling Gu master. Therefore, someone had already gone back to report in advance. Because of this, the news was leaked, and many people pointed at Fang Yuan with great curiosity. Some children shouted excitedly and jumped at the back of the group. Fang Yuan sat on the hump wolf's back, looking at Gu Guang waving to the crowd. Every time he waved, the crowd would cheer. It could be seen that this young man had great prestige in Gu tribe. From the conversations along the way, Fang Yuan had thoroughly understood Gu Guang. He was Gu Yao's elder brother, a typical Northern Plains man. He was forthright and loyal, regarding honor and glory as more important than life, he was courageous and brave. At the same time, the traditional concept of men being superior to women was deeply ingrained in his bones. Thus, he was extremely angry and disgusted with his sister's escape from the marriage. But this anger and disgust did not mean that the brother-sister relationship was shallow. On the contrary, if he knew that Fang Yuan was his sister's murderer, even if he had no primeval essence, he would use his teeth and limbs to take revenge on Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan had lived in Northern Plains for 500 years in his previous life, and had a deep understanding of Northern Plains people. The group walked along the main path towards the center of the camp. There were many tents around, similar to the Mongolian yurts on earth. These were the houses that mortals lived in. Many people heard the commotion and lifted the curtains. When they walked out and saw the wolf group beside Fang Yuan, their expressions changed. When they saw the young tribe leader, they quickly covered their hearts with their right hands and bowed to Gu Guang, greeting him loudly. In the southern border, mortals would kneel when they met Gu masters. But in Northern Plains, brave men only kneeled to heaven and earth, their ancestors and elders. Normally, they would not easily kneel, even if they met the tribe leader or elders. These people were all wearing ordinary leather robes. Some had better family circumstances, the women wore jewelry, while the men had gold or purple threads embroidered on their clothes. Some had worse family circumstances, their clothes were tattered and even patched. But this was much better than being a slave. Along the way, Fang Yuan saw that the people kneeling on the ground were all slaves. Most of these slaves did not have proper clothes, their faces were sallow and their bodies emaciated. In Northern Plains, these slaves had very low status and their lives were miserable. In the hearts of Northern Plains people, raising slaves was equivalent to raising cattle and sheep. Slave trade was the most popular in Northern Plains. In Northern Plains, those who lived in tents were mortals. The tents were distributed outside the camp, while the inner area was where the Gu masters lived. If a beast group attacked the camp, the mortals would be the first to suffer. After Fang Yuan's group walked past the tents, they arrived at the Gu masters' area. The Gu masters on the grassland did not live in tents, but in Gu houses. A Gu house was a house made from Gu. A simple Gu house was just a Gu. A more complex Gu house was built by combining many Gu together. In the southern border, large caravans that traveled in the mountains and forests also had Gu houses. Back then on Qing Mao Mountain, Jia clan's caravan carried a Gu house, using a woodpath Gu, 3-star cave. It was 18 meters tall, a giant tree that reached into the sky. The tree roots were thick and strong, the branches were like entangling dragons and snakes. A small portion was exposed on the surface, while the rest were deeply rooted in the ground. The tree trunk had 3 layers, and on the surface of the trunk, there were windows. Its defense was not something a tent could compare to. When used, the logistics Gu master would plant it and infuse it with primeval essence, causing it to grow. When reclaimed, it would form a seed. But in Northern Plains, ordinary Gu houses were all towering trees like 3-star cave. Such a tall tree could easily be struck by lightning during a thunderstorm. Thus, the first Gu house that Fang Yuan saw was the most commonly seen house lizard Gu in Northern Plains. This was a rank 2 Gu. It looked like a lizard with different colors, the most common being dark green, sky blue, and milky white. Its body was huge, comparable to a bus on Earth. The 2 eye sockets of the lizard were made into windows. The 2 sides of the lizard also had windows. The lizard was lying on the ground, opening its mouth and revealing a door. After pushing the door open, there was a long corridor. On both sides of the corridor were rooms. At the end of the corridor was a toilet, temporarily storing excrement. When the tribe set off, the lizard would crawl up and move forward with its thick limbs. When there was too much excrement in the toilet, these lizards would defecate, raising their tails and exposing their anus, excreting all the excrement. The families living in the Gu house had at least 1 Gu master. The living environment here was clearly of a higher level than the tent area. At the entrance of the Gu house, there were often big stomach horses with the reins coiled around the lizard's huge teeth. A few families even had hump wolves. After Fang Yuan and the rest passed through these lizard house Gu, they saw the Gu house mushroom forest. This Gu house was formed by planting a large number of mushroom room Gu. Every house was a giant mushroom with a fleshy gray conical roof. It could slide down the rain without attracting lightning strikes. It was also very stable in the strong wind. The mushroom's thick cylindrical roots were the white walls. There were also windows on them. Several mushroom room gu were placed together, forming a unique small courtyard. Dozens of mushroom room gu were planted together, forming a grassland, forming a small garden. Those who lived in the mushroom forest were mostly clan elders or wealthy gu masters. Hearing the movement of Fang Yuan and the rest, the windows of these mushroom rooms opened, revealing the faces of Northern Plains women and children. Some lively children even ran out and touched the fur of the wind wolves or poison-bearded wolves. They were much bolder than the children of mortals. Benefactor Chang Shan-yin, our Gu tribe's main tent is in front. Gu Guang spoke. The group came to the center of the camp. There were hundreds of mushroom room gu here. An old man, who looked very similar to Gu Guang, led a group of gu masters and welcomed them. Fang Yuan guessed that he was Gu tribe leader, and to show his courtesy, he got off the hump wolf. The old tribe leader quickly walked to Fang Yuan, placing his right hand on his chest. He bowed deeply to Fang Yuan. Esteemed expert, you saved my son. That is equivalent to saving the future of our Gu tribe. Please come in, we have prepared high-quality horse milk wine. The cows and sheep are also being roasted. We will also have people to feed your wolf group. All right. Fang Yuan nodded, following Gu tribe leader into the largest mushroom forest. In the mushroom forest, in the largest mushroom room gu, everyone sat down. The fragrant horse milk wine was placed in a leather bag, held by a beautiful young girl, standing behind everyone. Large amounts of delicacies were served on the table. Not long after, there were people carrying roasted whole sheep and cows to the center of the room. Gu tribe leader personally got off his seat. Coming to the center of the room, he used a dagger to cut off the eyes of the cows and sheep, then cut off the meat on their backs and chests. Next, he placed them on a golden plate, holding them with both hands, and personally brought them to Fang Yuan's table. Benefactor, please. Gu tribe leader raised his wine cup, standing in front of Fang Yuan, toasting him. Northern Plains people respected good men the most, and were very hospitable. In Northern Plains, if the host toasted to the guest, and the guest drank it all, it was a sign of respect to the host. On the contrary, if the guest did not drink, it was a sign of disdain. When Fang Yuan drank the whole bowl of horse milk wine, everyone in the room cheered loudly, and the atmosphere started to heat up. After Gu tribe leader toasted, it was Gu Guang's turn to toast, and Fang Yuan drank it all in one gulp. Next, it was the other elders' turn to toast. Fang Yuan drank it all, showing a heroic spirit that made everyone even happier. After 3 rounds of toasts, the atmosphere in the room was already heated up. Benefactor Chang Shan-yin, your name sounds familiar. Are you a member of the Chang clan? I have acquaintances in Chang tribe. My second daughter is married to Chang tribe. Maybe, we are even relatives. Gu tribe leader put down his wine cup. His face was slightly red, but his eyes were shining brightly. Gu tribe leader, I know what you want to ask. I am from Chang tribe's Yuan Feng branch, the Shan generation, the only son in the family. My father is Chang Xingchen, and my mother is Chang Chui. Fang Yuan sighed, replying in a melancholic tone. Gu tribe leader's eyes opened wide, looking at Fang Yuan in shock. You are really warrior Chang Shan-yin? During the banquet, some were curious about Fang Yuan's experiences. Fang Yuan said the words he had already prepared, in front of everyone. It was probably the same words he used to deceive Gu Yao, but it was more accurate than deceiving a young girl. The main point was his cultivation. Because of his injuries, he had fallen from rank 4 peak stage to initial stage. There were no flaws in his words. Everyone exclaimed and sighed. They felt even more admiration towards Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, on the other hand, was sighing. He did not care about his past achievements, his gaze was filled with vicissitudes and his tone was melancholic. Gu tribesmen saw that the legendary hero had such a painful side, they felt sad and sympathized with him, they felt even closer to Fang Yuan. On the third day, Gu tribe continued to invite guests, showing great enthusiasm. An unfamiliar elder appeared at the banquet this time. He was in charge of Gu tribe's intelligence. When Fang Yuan came to the camp, he was ordered to lead a group to search for Gu Yao. Sigh, it's all my fault. I have an unruly little girl, I have spoiled her too much. This time, she actually ran away from the marriage. Gu tribe leader sighed. That's right, big brother Chang Shanin, you have returned from poison grassland. Did you see my sister on the way? Gu Guang asked. Fang Yuan had no hesitation, his expression was very natural as he replied, apologies, I had wolves as my companions along the way. You are the first batch of people I met, so I feel very close to you. Gu Guang was only asking casually, he did not have any expectations. Furthermore, poison grassland was so big, it was normal that Fang Yuan did not meet her. Even if he did, it would be a rare thing. There is no news of my insensible sister now, I really don't know where she escaped to. Sigh, now it is troublesome, Man tribe leader's second son Man Duo is the one who asked for her hand in marriage. Now that she ran away, Man Duo will not be able to get her, he will probably vent his anger on our Gu tribe. Gu Guang frowned, sighing deeply. The other elders' expressions also sank, these days, Man tribe had been pressuring them more and more. What they did not know was that Chang Shanin, whom they had warmly received for the past 3 days, had already killed Gu Yao. Trees die when moved, but people live when moved. Brother Gu, why are you so reluctant to leave this place? There is only over a year left until the blizzard. Your tribe can move to the north, participate in the Heroes' Assembly and attach to the Huang Jin tribe. That way, you can hide in Imperial Court Blessed Land when the blizzard arrives. Fang Yuan urged. It was not easy to survive in the Gu Master world, the environment was cruel. In southern border, people set up villages and easily attracted beast tides. But northern plains had no mountains to rely on, it would be baptized by the blizzard. Chapter 446. Come, have a taste of this fragrant rice cake. Selling tea, top-grade tea bricks. Ah, Su family's horse milk wine, 10 years old, anyone who drinks it will know. Messy stalls were set up everywhere, and the air was filled with fragrances. The sounds of shouting and bargaining rose and fell one after another. Fang Yuan walked among them, the surrounding people were rubbing shoulders with each other, the festive atmosphere was intense. Not only did they sell food, they also sold robes. There were ordinary sheepskin robes, dog-skin robes, and slightly higher quality cowhide robes. There were also beautiful fox snow robes, and the wolf skin robes that soldiers often wore. Children lingered around the food stalls, while men squatted in front of the stalls selling ironware to bargain. Women chose agate, gems, pearls, and jewelry made of gold and silver. Continuing to walk inside, Fang Yuan saw a hastily built plaza. In the plaza, there were huge wooden cages filled with people. Outside the cages, there were specialized Gu masters guarding. A fat man with a fat waist was shouting with all his might, selling slaves, 5 male slaves for half a yuan stone. Fang Yuan took a glance and knew this was the popular slave trade in northern plains. These people were the other tribes that were annexed after the war. After being captured alive, they lost their freedom and became goods. Inside the cages, there were children who were as skinny as sticks, and men who were chained and kneeling with their heads lowered. Of course, there were women. The fat man shouted for a long time, his forehead was covered in sweat. Seeing that everyone was just watching, he rolled his eyes and opened the wooden cage, pulling out a woman with a face full of dirt. Quickly look, this is a good woman. With a ripping sound, he tore the woman's tattered robe, revealing her breasts. Look, what a plump chest. Next, he turned the woman around and slapped her butt in front of everyone. And look at this, what a fat butt, it can give birth. If I buy it, I can give birth to babies and even do manual labor. During the whole process, the woman's expression was numb, like a puppet, being manipulated by others. The fat man shouted with all his might, finally causing a commotion among the crowd. Someone shouted, "How much is this woman?" 3 taels of primeval stones, only 3 taels of primeval stones. The fatty immediately raised 3 thick and short fingers. 3 taels of yuan stone was not even half a yuan stone. However, the person who had just asked the price shouted, "What? 3 taels? Are you trying to rob me? If I had this money, I might as well save another 2 taels and buy a horse with a big stomach." Fatty's oily face immediately trembled and he spat at his feet. Bullshit. Buy a woman to ride on the bed. Buy a horse with a big stomach. Although you can ride it, can it give birth to a baby? Pauper, if you don't want to buy, then scram. The fat man was a rank 1 gu master, while the person who was scolded was a mortal. He immediately shrunk his head and slipped away. Fang Yuan took a few glances at it with interest before withdrawing his gaze. The slaves that the fatty was selling were only mortals, so of course they wouldn't fetch a good price. But if it was an inhuman, it would be much easier to sell. If it was a gu master, it would be a high-level slave with the highest price. Looking at these slaves, Fang Yuan could not help but think of Ma Hongyun. This person was born as a slave and had heaven-defying luck. First, he participated in the battle as a slave. In the end, his tribe was routed, and he saved the young tribe leader by a freak combination of factors while escaping. Thus, he made a great contribution and was given the surname Ma, no longer a slave. He became an ordinary mortal in the Ma clan. To make a living, he went out to hunt, but because his skills were not good, he had no gains. On the way back, he tripped over a rock. He smashed the rock fiercely, and found a white-silver relic gu under the rock. He offered the gu worm to his tribe's young tribe leader. The young tribe leader needed this white-silver relic gu, and was overjoyed. Not only did he heavily reward Ma Hongyun, he even gave him a chance to cultivate. Ma Hongyun opened his aperture and had great aptitude, but he did not have any powerful gu worms. He was often bullied by the surrounding gu masters, and once was kicked into the river. In the end, Ma Hongyun, who did not know how to swim, was filled with water, and floated downstream along the rapid river. Downstream, Shing tribe leader's 3rd daughter, Shingling Heir, was bathing, and was seen by Ma Hongyun. According to Shing tribe's tradition, the beautiful Shing tribe female genius gu master had no choice but to accept her fate and become his wife. Ma Hongyun obtained great help from Shingling Heir, and never lacked gu worms and yuan stone. Shingling Heir even stole the tribe's treasure gu for him, and raised his aptitude to a grade. After this matter was exposed, Shing tribe leader did not want his daughter to marry such a poor lad, and secretly sent an expert to kill Ma Hongyun. In the end, this expert had a dispute with someone on the way, and was killed by another expert. Ma Hongyun and Shingling Heir became husband and wife, and was placed in an important position. Shing tribe members were jealous of him, and plotted against him. He had no choice but to escape to poison grassland, and when he was about to be killed by the poison-beard wolves, he found Chang Shan-yin. After he saved Chang Shan-yin became his loyal subject. Just like this, relying on his shocking luck, Ma Hongyun climbed up step by step, and even became the lord of the imperial court. After He Lolan's death, he became the overlord of the imperial court for over 100 years. Afterwards, he obtained thieving heaven demon venerable and giant sun immortals' inheritances, and became a gu immortal. He was even given a blessed land by a gu master. When the flames of war burned the world, Ma Hongyun became one of the pillars of northern plains, resisting the Central Continent Army, and was in the limelight. At this time, Ma Hongyun should be 13 years old already. It is a pity that I do not know his true identity. Ma Hongyun is only a name given to him by Ma tribe after he saved Ma tribe's young tribe leader. Ma tribe is one of the Huang Jin bloodlines left behind by Giant Sun, and in order to fight for the imperial court, they have been expanding and annexing many tribes. I wonder if Ma Hongyun has become a slave of Ma tribe now. Fang Yuan collected his scattered thoughts, and found himself at the entrance of a gambling den. There were couplets on the door. On the left side, show a little courage, get 4 seasons. On the right side, display your skills, get wealth in all directions. On the horizontal side, luck changes. The gambling den's business was very good, and even Fang Yuan was moved. With my many years of experience, I might be able to make a small fortune. This thought made Fang Yuan laugh. He then thought of Ma Hongyun. This extremely lucky lad was cheated by someone, who gave him the lowest quality rock to gamble. But in the end, he actually got a rank 5 gu through pure luck. Fang Yuan still had matters to attend to, and was not in a hurry to enter the gambling den. He walked past the entrance of the gambling den, and entered the central area of the market. This place was much quieter, and the human traffic was much less. Almost all he could see were gu masters. Even if there were mortals, they were the gu master's followers, following beside the gu master with their heads lowered and holding things in their hands. There were also some young masters and young ladies who had yet to awaken their apertures. Although there were no guards, but between mortals and gu masters, there was naturally a clear division between them. The formless threshold formed by the difference in strength, separating the two different lives. Fang Yuan walked leisurely, and everywhere he went, gu masters looked at him with reverent gazes. Those who walked in front of Fang Yuan all stopped and gave way. Behind him, some whispers could be heard. Why is there a rank 4 expert? This person looks unfamiliar, he doesn't seem to be from any of the large tribes. Be careful, every time the market opens, there will be many demonic gu masters coming in to sell their loot. Rank 4 and rank 3 were on different levels. Rank 3 was the cornerstone, and the elders of the large tribes were all at this level. Rank 4 was the expert among gu masters, and most of the tribe leaders were rank 4, thus they could move unhindered in the mortal world. The aura of rank 4 initial stage made his every movement attract everyone's gazes. Some were reverence, some were curiosity, and some were wariness. This place specialized in gu master businesses. There was a gu refinement workshop that specialized in refining gu for gu masters, and also sold and purchased recipes. Fang Yuan lacked wolf enslavement gu's recipe, and after a few trips, he successfully bought a recipe from rank 1 to rank 3. Rank 4 recipes were always guarded by the large tribes, and were rarely seen in the market. Next, Fang Yuan went to a restaurant. But he did not find any top-quality wine. He came to the largest shop. Esteemed expert, your presence is our shop's honor, please come in. The shopkeeper was a rank 3 old gu master, and he personally came out to welcome him. I need large amounts of wolf enslavement gu. Fang Yuan went straight to the point. Alright, please go upstairs and discuss. The old man led Fang Yuan to a private room on the 3rd floor. To Fang Yuan's surprise, this shop actually had a rank 4 wolf enslavement gu, priced at 70,000 yuan stone. Fang Yuan immediately bought it. After some haggling, Fang Yuan bought 5 rank 3 wolf enslavement gu, and 38 rank 2 wolf enslavement gu. The shopkeeper rubbed his hands in joy, knowing he had met a big customer. Esteemed customer, what else do you need? Please let me know. What defensive gu do you have here? Fang Yuan asked. The old man reported a list of gu worm names, and Fang Yuan shook his head slightly. There was a rank 4 gu, but it did not fit his enslavement path. The rest were all ordinary gu worms. Next, Fang Yuan asked about flying gu. Flying Gu were rare, because flying techniques were hard to achieve. Under normal circumstances, only outstanding disciples of large tribes would be nurtured from a young age. But this way, they would have the resources of the tribe, and would never lack flying Gu. As for other Gu masters, they would rarely try flying. The shopkeeper said proudly, "Customer, you came to the right place. In the entire market, only my shop has a rank 4 flying cloud Gu." But Fang Yuan shook his head. Although flying cloud Gu was strong in flying, its turning ability was poor, and its speed was average. It was suitable for Gu masters who were not good at flying. To him, it was better to use the rank 3 eagle wings Gu, allowing him to turn freely in the air. After buying an eagle wings Gu, Fang Yuan asked about the bone bamboo Gu and ghost fire Gu. He needed these 2 Gu to repair the rank 5 Gu battle bone wheel. In the end, there were many rank 2 ghost fire Gu in the shop. On the contrary, there was not a single rank 1 bone bamboo Gu. The shopkeeper smiled bitterly, "Customer, I am sorry. All the bone bamboo Gu in the entire market have been bought by the external elder that Man tribe recently recruited. Not only this shop does not have any, other shops also do not have any." Chapter 447. Man tribe controlled Hong Yen Valley and had won several battles in recent years, expanding rapidly. A northern plains was different from southern border. Southern border was a mountainous area, easy to defend and hard to attack. A long journey would result in huge losses. Southern border's clans operated slowly accumulating resources. They moved steadily and had pure bloodlines. But northern plains was a grassland. Battles were frequent. Northern plains clans flourished quickly, but also declined quickly. A few victories could allow a small-scale clan to expand into a medium-scale clan. A medium-scale clan could expand into a large-scale clan. It could also cause a large-scale clan to split into many smaller clans after a huge defeat. Man tribe had recently annexed Shi tribe. Shi tribe's elder Shi Wu had become Man tribe's external elder. He was a bone path Gu master. He was the one who bought all the bone bamboo Gu in the market. It was said he wanted to research a new bone path recipe. Fang Yuan noted this person down and asked the shopkeeper about soul path and strength path Gu worms. "My shop has rank 1 gene strength Gu. It can increase a Gu master's strength by 1 gene. Each Gu is sold for 220 yuan stone. There is rank 2 strength of 10 gene Gu. It can increase a Gu master's strength by 10 gene. The price is 690 yuan stone. There is also rank 3 strength of June Gu. 1 June is 30 gene. Each Gu costs 4,550 yuan stone. Although we do not have rank 4 strength of 10 June Gu, if esteemed customer needs it, our shop can transfer the goods. Each strength of 10 June Gu is sold for 36,000 yuan stone." The shopkeeper's mouth opened and closed as he skillfully listed a long list of prices. At the end, he added, "Of course, these are only Gene strength Gu and June strength Gu. If esteemed customer wants to walk on the ancient strength path and need beast strength Gu, our shop also has wolf strength Gu. It can increase the strength of a wolf and increase endurance. We also have horse strength Gu. It can increase the strength of a horse. It can be used best when running." Fang Yuan had used beast strength Gu before, walking on the ancient strength path. Gene strength Gu and June strength Gu were the mainstream in the last few hundred years in northern plains. Right now, the strength path was declining. It was no longer glorious, but there was development. The one who made this contribution was a famous rank 7 Gu immortal in northern plains. Chu Du. He was called Domination Immortal. He was the one who developed Gene strength Gu and June strength Gu. He even single-handedly refined the rank 6 immortal Gu strength, impacting 1,000 caddies. 1 June was 30 caddies. Qian June was equivalent to 30,000 Gene. According to the legends on Earth, the golden cudgel of the victorious fighting Buddha only weighed 13,500 pounds. Erlang Shan's three-pointed, double-edged saber weighed 25,200 jin. Chu Du became a Gu immortal 300 years ago. The recipes he researched were widely spread. Soon, it became the mainstream strength path in northern plains. Ancient strength path usually used beast strength Gu, such as Green Bull Labor Gu, Biao strength Gu, Dragon strength Gu and so on. Because materials from the olden antiquity era were very rare now, the cost of Gu refinement was very high. As for Domination Immortal Chu Du's secret recipes, their advantage was that the ingredients were common and easy to gather. The cost was low, and the success rate of the Gu refinement was also higher than beast strength Gu. Northern Plains was probably the place where strength path was the most popular in the 5 regions. Northern Plains was embroiled in battles all year round, large and small battles were frequent. And the cost of strength was low. For low-rank Gu masters, the increase in battle strength was more obvious. Many Northern Plains Gu masters also cultivated strength path. They often fought fiercely and exhausted their jinqi. At this time, they needed to fight. Strength was very important. There was a saying on Earth, war was the catalyst for the advancement of technology. This saying, in this world, it was quite suitable. Northern Plains was also a place where new Gu worms emerged endlessly. From that Sherwu elder who joined Man tribe, one could see the trend of Northern Plains Gu masters researching new Gu worms. Domination Immortal later died in battle. He died at the hands of Feng Jioge, who came to the lower realm from the celestial court. After his death, his descendants called him Afterglow of Strength Path. When news of his death spread, all the Gu masters in Northern Plains cried bitterly. Sigh. The heroes in this world are as many as the stars in the night sky, the geniuses are as many as the carps in the river. The 5 regions are too big, even the size of Earth cannot compare to one of them. Especially in the Great Era 500 years later, dragons and snakes will rise, heroes will compete, old monsters will come out one after another, and new talents will emerge one after another. Countless heroes, ambitious people, different temperaments of the righteous path and demonic path, will collide with each other, engaging in intense battles of life and death. It is truly an unparalleled spectacle and magnificence. I had secretly used old pushing Gu earlier. Not only did I get rid of the bronze skin, essence iron bones, and golden steel tendons, I even got rid of the remaining strength path beast phantoms on my body. Firstly, these strength path beast phantoms originate from southern border Gu worms. They are suppressed in northern plains and are not practical. Secondly, once the beast phantoms appear, my identity will be exposed. My greatest advantage now is Dang Hun Mountain, the 500 years of experience from my previous life, and the blessed land's resources. I am suitable to walk the enslavement path. But enslavement path also has flaws, thus I need to cultivate strength path to prevent beheading the leader tactic. Since I am wearing Chang Shan Yin's skin and have to integrate into northern plains, I might as well choose Jun's strength Gu. Fang Yuan's thoughts flickered before he made up his mind, ordering the rank 4 strength of 10 Jun Gu from the shop owner. Next, he looked at soul path Gu worms. There were many more soul path Gu worms than strength path Gu worms. There were Ghost Fire Gu, Ghost Cry Gu, Ghost Face Gu, Ghost Axe Gu and others used for offense. There were Ghost Cage Gu, Ghost Hand Gu, Ghost Hit Wall Gu used for imprisonment and confusion. For defense, there were Ghost Divination Coat Gu, Soul Shield Gu and others. For healing, there were Ghost Chi Gu, Ghost Sob Gu and others. For reconnaissance, there were Ghost Eye Gu. For movement, there were Soul Flying Gu and Elusive Ghostly Gu. There were also Ghost Soldier Gu, Ghostly Impermanence Gu, Chi Travel Ghost, 9 Child Ghost Mother Gu and others used enslavement path. This was the aura of the Great Tao. Strength path was already declining, while soul path had not declined for a long time. This could be easily seen from here. Strength path Gu worms only had Gene Strength Gu, Jun's Strength Gu and Beast Strength Gu. They were mostly used for offense. There were pitifully few in terms of defense, reconnaissance, and support. It was hard to form a complete set of pure strength path gu. But soul path gu worms were numerous and involved in all aspects. When they formed a set, they could amplify each other and achieve better results. Think of that domination immortal Chu Du. Even though he was a strength path gu immortal, he used other gu worms for defense, reconnaissance, storage, and so on. Fang Yuan came with a goal. He ignored the dazzling array of soul path gu worms and only focused on the gu used to refine the soul. There were no rank 4 gu worms. But there were a lot of rank 3 gu worms. There were divine soul gu, dragon soul gu, ice soul gu, dream soul gu, moon soul gu, general soul gu, grudge soul gu, poem soul gu, horse soul gu, heroic soul gu, chi soul gu, body soul gu, cloud soul gu, wind soul gu, tiger soul gu, and so on. These gu worms could refine the soul. And they all had their own advantages. For example, by refining the soul and forming an ice soul, the gu master would have a huge boost when using ice-type gu worms in the future. Cloud soul and wind soul also had similar effects. If he used dragon soul gu to form a dragon soul, he would be able to use dragon strength gu, dragon scales gu, dragon travel gu, and so on in the future. There would be benefits. Fang Yuan looked around and saw that there was nothing more suitable for him. He chose wolf soul gu in his plan. Since ancient times, enslavement and soul were inseparable. Enslavement path was originally a branch of soul path. Later on, gu masters combined it with immemorial wisdom path and made enslavement path truly independent. Beast enslavement gu and slavery gu were used to control the soul. They were rulers of the mind. If Fang Yuan could refine a wolf soul, it would be of great help to him in enslaving the wolf group. Rank 3 wolf soul gu, one sold for 7,700 yuan stone. Fang Yuan went on a shopping spree, emptying the store's inventory and buying all 8 wolf soul gu. Wolf soul gu's effects could be stacked. A rank 3 wolf soul gu was not enough to refine Fang Yuan's 100-man soul. Wild gu worms had their own will and were hard to refine. But the gu worms Fang Yuan bought had already been refined by others. After the transaction was completed, these gu worms became Fang Yuan's. He stored these gu into his aperture. After leaving this store, he went to another store. The important ones were rank 2 and 3 wolf enslavement gu, as well as rank 3 wolf soul gu. 1 million yuan stone was not much, but the gu worms Fang Yuan wanted to buy were all common rank 2 and 3. He also wanted to buy rank 4 gu. But this market was too small. There were few rank 4 gu, and none of them were what he wanted. After 3 days, Fang Yuan became a celebrity in the market. Every store knew that there was a rank for expert buying gu worms in bulk. On the 5th day, Fang Yuan spent 5 to 600,000 yuan stone lavishly. In the meantime, he would go to the farms in the market. On the farms, many livestock were sold, and the most popular were big-stomach horses. Even mortals needed this kind of horse. And those who bought hump wolves as battle mounts were all gu masters. There were also many gu masters who caught wild beasts to sell. Like wild bulls, wild horses, eagles and so on. And in the grassland, the most commonly seen wolf was naturally among them. Chapter 448. After more than a month, Gu Yao's death was finally discovered by Gu tribesmen. When the news spread, many Gu tribesmen cried. Although Gu Yao was usually difficult, she had a kind heart and was the beauty of Gu tribesmen. Everyone liked her. She had many suitors in Gu tribesmen. My daughter, it was I who harmed you. Gu clan's old clan leader was so dejected that he fell ill. Gu Guang became the acting tribe leader, with the other tribe elders assisting him. Gu tribesmen were filled with grief, their mood was heavy. Gu Yao's death had a huge impact. Man tribe leader's second son Man Duo fell in love with Guyao at first sight, and had been asking for her from Gu tribe. Now that Guyao was dead, where would Gu tribe find her? Man tribe was a large tribe, they had expanded rapidly these years, swallowing many small tribes. After several victories, Man tribe's morale was high, and they were even more imposing towards the fallen Gu tribe, constantly pressuring Gu Guang after several negotiations. Gu tribe was a tribe that had migrated here, they were not as large as Man tribe, and after losing their home, they wanted to rely on Hongyan Valley in the blizzard. Thus, Gu Guang was in a very passive situation, he was badly battered. In the room, Fang Yuan sat cross-legged on the bed, his eyes slightly opened. On his right palm, there was a wolf soul gu. This gu was only the size of a thumb, it looked like a gray wolf puppet, silently emitting an eerie blue light. This is the 9th wolf soul gu. Fang Yuan injected his primeval essence, and the wolf soul gu expanded, turning into a gray wolf soul in a few breaths of time. The wolf soul opened its mouth, letting out a silent howl as it charged towards Fang Yuan's body. This collision was silent, but Fang Yuan felt that his body and mind were shaken, he was dazzled. The wolf soul collided with his soul, and the 100-man soul that was originally in human form tumbled, losing its human form, and tangled with the wolf soul, forming a rolling soul fog. The soul fog did not dissipate, but moved around in Fang Yuan's body. Sometimes it showed the wolf head, wolf tail, and sometimes it turned into Fang Yuan's form. After 5 minutes, the soul fog stabilized, turning back into a human soul. However, this human soul had changed again. Fang Yuan's original 100-man soul was exactly his original appearance. His ears, nose, and eyes were exactly the same. However, after using the wolf soul gu 9 times, although the 100-man soul was still in human form, it had a pair of wolf ears on its head. Its long hair hung down to its waist, and its eyes had turned into a wolf's eyes that were filled with wildness. His entire body became thinner, and his nose became taller. Originally, his 100-man soul was huge, almost bursting out of his skin. But now, it was much more condensed, and the color of the soul had changed from its original pale white to a deeper grayish white. Fang Yuan estimated that by the time he used all the wolf soul gu he had, his 100-man soul would be condensed to its limit. At that time, his entire soul would become half human and half wolf, commonly known as the soul of a werewolf. The werewolf soul was several times stronger than the original 100-man soul. After obtaining the werewolf soul, Fang Yuan could once again strengthen his soul, raising his 100-man soul to a 1,000-man soul, or even 10,000-man soul. Of course, 10,000-man soul was not the limit, there was still 100,000,000-man soul and so on. In theory, the soul can become infinitely stronger. Back then, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable, who created the soul path, had a soul that definitely surpassed 100,000,000-man soul. His demon venerable soul had 1,000 arms and 3 heads. The front head had dragon horns, lion mane, snake eyes, and elephant tusks. The left head had a peach forehead, grass hair, and 3 flower-like eyes. But my sister is already dead, how can I hand her over? No matter how I explained, that man Duo kid did not believe me. According to the rules of the grassland, we have to accept the challenge. Right now, he has already killed 3 of our tribe elders and injured 3 others, even I was defeated. Fang Yuan thought in his heart, as expected, Man tribe had been pressuring them day by day, they could be said to be overbearing. Gu tribe was very tolerant, but it had instead encouraged Man tribe's arrogance. Although Fang Yuan had been cultivating all day, he was not working behind closed doors, he was very clear of the outside world situation. Speaking of which, Chang Shan-yin has returned to Northern Plains, he needs a bigger stage to appear. I might as well use this chance to announce the return of the hero of the past. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan helped Gu Guang up, saying, I have been staying here for the past few days, I have troubled Gu tribe, I cannot just watch by the side, quickly bring me there. Uncle, nephew thanks you. Gu Guang was overjoyed. The two quickly went out, but before they reached the camp, they heard cursing outside. Gu tribe is full of cowards, quickly come out and accept your death. This was the voice of a young man. Man duo, don't go too far. A Gu tribe elder shouted angrily. He, so what if I bully you? Wolves hunt their prey, eagles bully birds, this is a matter of course. Quickly hand over Gu Yao, otherwise, I will continue to challenge you until I kill all of you. Despicable. If it was the old tribe leader, would you dare to do this? Gu tribe elder retorted. Man duo was furious. You are the despicable ones, you agreed to the marriage but you can't hand her over now. Going back on your words. I know you are hiding Gu Yao, trying to stall for time. Earlier, you said she was escaping the marriage, now you say she is dead. Do you think I, man duo, am an idiot? A little rabbit dares to play with tigers and wolves, you will have to pay with your life. Sure Wu, continue to fight, challenge me. Gu tribe, quickly send your people up. Ha. Gu tribe elders were pale, they looked at each other, no one dared to go up. Sure Wu was a burly man with a bald head and a fierce face, he walked up the stage with a sinister smile. He was a rank 3 peak stage Gu master, he had great strength. The elder that Gu tribe sacrificed was killed by him on the spot. He walked around the center of the stage, looking at Gu tribe's huge camp. Why is no one going up? Don't tell me you're afraid. Gu tribesmen were furious, countless pairs of eyes spewed fire as they stared at Sure Wu. Gutless cowards, let me give you a little more courage. There are 100,000 yuan stones here, whoever dares to win against me, I will give all these yuan stones to them. No one from Gu tribe responded. Sure Wu laughed maniacally. Gu tribe, you are just a bunch of rabbits and sheep. Have you laughed enough? With Gu Guang leading the way, Fang Yuan walked out of the crowd with a plain expression. Sure Wu's laughter stopped, his pupils shrunk as he looked at Fang Yuan in shock. Rank 4 Gu Master. Who is this person? Not only Sure Wu, but Man Duo and the others also had the same question in their minds. Gu tribe still has a hidden rank for Gu Master. Man Duo felt something amiss. The reason he came to find trouble this time was to take advantage of the fact that the old Gu clan leader was bedridden. But to think that Gu tribe had a second rank for battle strength expert. Before I came, I had already investigated. Where did this expert come from? With such doubts, Man Duo jumped down from his horse. He changed his attitude, placing his right hand on his chest, he bowed towards Fang Yuan. Friend, you are not from Gu tribe, why are you here? Fang Yuan looked at Man Duo, he felt this young man was interesting. He first learned of Man Duo's existence from Gu Yao's description. Chapter 449. In northern plains where the strong were respected, where fists were the most powerful, Man Duo was actually doted on by his father, mobilizing the elders to challenge the entire Gu tribe. This showed his methods and courage, he was not an ordinary hedonistic young master. Fang Yuan smiled, Chang Shan Yin, am a guest of Gu tribe, I know the rules of northern plains, I should not care about other people's matters. But I just heard that this brother took out 100,000 yuan stone. I am lacking yuan stone recently, how can I not accept money that came to me? Sure Wu heard this and wanted to slap his own mouth. My mouth is really asking for it. It actually attracted a rank 4 expert. He was filled with bitterness. Man Duo laughed dryly, this is easy, senior lacks yuan stone, this junior is willing to offer 500,000 yuan stone. His meaning was to let Fang Yuan watch from the side. At once, Gu tribesmen looked nervously at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan might be a legendary hero, but how many heroes were there that could not live up to his reputation? Furthermore, there was a saying, a wise man submits to the circumstances. Gu tribe was in such dire straits, while Man tribe was so powerful. Chang Shan Yin was an outsider, there was no reason for him to help. At this moment, Fang Yuan became the focus of everyone's attention. His attitude would decide the direction of the situation. Under everyone's gaze, Fang Yuan smiled proudly. A gentleman takes wealth in a proper way. I feel that the 500,000 yuan stone that came to me is light. But the 100,000 yuan stone that came to me through battle, I feel that it is very valuable. Come, according to Northern Plains rules, I will accept this battle. Fang Yuan walked down the stage. Uncle Chang Shan Yin. Gu Guang was moved to tears, not knowing what to say, he shouted behind Fang Yuan. Gu tribe's elders were also filled with emotions. As expected of Chang Shan Yin, a righteous hero. He is not moved by the benefits, what a righteous person. In this world, there are many who add flowers to embroidery, but few who provide timely help. Chang Shan Yin will forever be our tribe's guest. Man Duo's expression was dark and ugly. He also knew that it was pointless to say anything more, so he simply shut his mouth and looked at Shi Wu. Shi Wu felt extremely bitter when he felt Man Duo's gaze. He had just joined the Man clan not long ago and became an external elder of the Man clan. Naturally, he was eager to make contributions. Although Man Duo's cultivation level was not high, he was still the third son of the tribe leader. He also told him that old Gu tribe leader was seriously ill, so he followed Man Duo to challenge. He did not expect to meet Chang Shan Yin. The other party's aura was only at rank 4 initial stage, while he was already at rank 3 peak stage, there was not much of a difference. However, Shi Wu was keenly aware of the chasm in strength caused by the difference in cultivation realms. However, the current situation had already reached a point where it was difficult to get off. If they avoided the battle, they would be strongly despised by the outsiders. In Northern Plains where bravery was revered, it was impossible to survive. Shi Wu gritted his teeth and braced himself to enter the arena. Please enlighten me. He bowed deeply to Fang Yuan and forced a smile. Fang Yuan nodded lightly, standing on the spot without moving, but his body was rapidly growing light azure wolf fur. Wolf fur covered his entire body, his ears, face, and even his feet and palms. This is azure wolf skin goo. Shi Wu's heart sank. Azure wolf skin goo was a common rank 4 goo worm. But even so, this defense was not something a rank 3 goo could easily penetrate. The Gu tribesmen behind Fang Yuan were all focused, their gazes shining as they waited for Fang Yuan to show his might. Someone even shouted, "This guy killed 3 of our tribe's elders." Shi Wu heard this and his heart shook, he complained in his heart, feeling that he was in big trouble. Oh no. I had fought 2 battles earlier and my primeval essence is less than 30%. I was not his match even in my peak condition, not to mention now. Seeing Shi Wu's stiff movements and flickering gaze, Fang Yuan laughed coldly in his heart. This person had already lost his fighting spirit, even if he had 100% of his strength, he would not be able to use even half of it. Moreover, he had fought several battles, his primeval essence was already insufficient. Such an opponent, in Fang Yuan's eyes, was simply a fish on the chopping block. But Fang Yuan did not want to kill him. Why would he kill him? He was an external elder recruited by Man tribe, killing him was like giving Man tribe a slap in the face. Although Fang Yuan was not afraid of trouble, he did not want to attract unnecessary trouble. Although Shi Wu killed Gu tribe's elder, what did Gu tribe have to do with him? Come. Fang Yuan stepped on the ground, activating Wolf Sprint Gu, his whole body shot out like an arrow, leaving behind afterimages. Shi Wu's mind was already in a mess, seeing Fang Yuan's ferocious aura, he quickly retreated in fear. At the same time, he raised 3 spinning bone shields. Clap clap clap. Fang Yuan moved like a shadow, fighting in close combat, attacking fiercely 3 times and destroying the bone shields. Shi Wu rolled on the ground, raising 3 more bone shields. Clap clap clap. Under Fang Yuan's lightning-fast attacks, these 3 bone shields broke again. He had 20 June of strength now, although he could not use his full strength, it was a piece of cake to break these bone shields. What else do you have? Use them all. Fang Yuan did not attack again, giving Shi Wu a chance to catch his breath. Shi Wu's forehead was filled with cold sweat, he gritted his teeth and rubbed his hands, taking out 2 iron bone axes. Wah-ya-ya! He shouted, holding the broad axe in his hand, he rushed forward to attack. He. Fang Yuan laughed lightly, but did not attack, he placed his hands behind his back, using wolf travel goo to move. His movements were erratic, like a willow leaf in the wind, his broad back and thin waist made him look even more elegant. Shi Wu roared, no matter how he swung his axes, he could not catch even a corner of Fang Yuan's clothes, he completely served as a foil to Fang Yuan. Lie down. Fang Yuan sighed lightly, he suddenly stretched out his finger and pointed at the axes. Shi Wu's head was spinning from Fang Yuan's movements, and with this force, he lost his balance and fell on his face. Good tribesmen saw his pathetic state and cheered loudly, gradually forming into one voice, "Kill him, kill him." Shi Wu's face was ashen, his fighting spirit was almost completely gone. Fang Yuan had complete control of the situation, he was like a lion teasing a sheep. He felt he was not Fang Yuan's match, the more he felt this way, the more he could not display his full strength, and the worse the situation became. Man Duo's heart also sank to rock bottom. Damn it, Shi Wu did not even have the chance to display his full strength, he was already scared out of his wits. But even so, this rank 4 Gu master is too strong. With just a casual stroll, he defeated Elder Shi Wu. Sigh, Shi Wu is going to die. I lost an elder in this trip, I am afraid my brothers will blame me when I return. But out of his expectations, Fang Yuan did not attack again. You are just a rank 3, if I kill you with rank 4 cultivation, people will think that I, the great Chang Shan-yin, am bullying you. Go. Fang Yuan waved his hand. Uncle Chang Shan-yin. Don't let this scoundrel off. Behind him, Gu Guang shouted. But Fang Yuan ignored him. Shi Wu reacted and immediately got up, his face was filled with joy after surviving a calamity. Thank you Lord for not killing me, thank you Lord for not killing me. Fang Yuan frowned, get lost. Yes. Shi Wu turned around and left. Senior, farewell. Man Duo bowed and mounted his horse. The group left dejectedly under good tribesmen's insults. Father, I have failed, I am here to ask for your forgiveness. Man Duo knelt on the ground, not daring to raise his head. Man tribe leader had a strong body, he had rank 4 peak stage cultivation. He sat on the tiger skin chair and looked at Man Duo. Old good tribe leader is bedridden this time, and you brought several rank 3 experts with you, but you still failed? You did not do your job well, but I heard from my servant that good tribe suddenly invited a rank 4 expert. That is indeed the case. He was the one who defeated the stone martial elder. This person was only testing his strength, but he played around with our strongest elder Shi Wu, he is truly unfathomably strong. But I have been in charge of this, it is all my fault for not gathering information, that is why I failed. I am guilty, father, please punish me. Man Duo's eyes were red as he choked with tears. Man tribe leader heard Man Duo's words and his tone became gentler, stand up, even though you failed this time, you are still my son. Tell me the specifics. Man Duo spoke and described the situation that day in detail. But just as he started, Man tribe leader stood up from his chair in shock, staring at Man Duo, he called himself Chang Shan-yin? Which Chang Shan-yin? Are you sure his name is Chang Shan-yin? Even if I had 10,000 guts, I would not dare to lie to father. Man Duo quickly clarified. Man tribe leader was dazed. Father. Man Duo could not help but call softly, is this Chang Shan-yin someone with a great background? Man tribe leader recovered from his daze, his gaze was solemn. It is hard to say now, he could be a fake. But if it is true, then Northern Plains will have one more person. You can leave first, I will deal with this personally. Man duo was shocked. His father was a busy man, but he had to deal with this personally. It showed how important Chang Shan-in was. Chang Shan-in, what kind of person are you? A few days later, in Gu tribe. Thank you for your help in the past few days, Brother Shan-in. This is 500,000 yuan stone, please accept it. Old Gu tribe leader had a haggard expression. The pain of losing his daughter made him look like he had aged 10 years. Fang Yuan did not reject it. After saying a few words, he accepted it. I have been staying in your tribe these days. Helping is what friends should do. It's just that I'm indeed short on primeval stones, so I'll take these as a loan. Brother Shan-in is of noble character and unquestionable integrity, as expected of a hero of Northern Plains. Old tribe leader was speaking when a subordinate came to report. He even brought an invitation card and a gift box. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.